All right. I don't know who's here, but if you're watching, go ahead and give me a 1. This is just a continuation of Cold Stream, so um, I guess we can start chatting. All right. Oh, and plus there's a Laker game going on. Okay, now we got 29 watching. All right. All right. Hey, what's going on, y'all? So this is a continuation of Cold Stream. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link, and you guys can come on in. Hopefully, I see Broke Genius is in. Hope Uru's in. What's up, Tamper Supreme? Tamper Supreme, we got to talk, man. You keep talking about what's his name? Chronicles of Judah needs to be in the manosphere, man, and I don't see it. If we keep advocating for him, and I don't see it, man. I go over there. He talks about mostly sports. So I don't see even what you're talking about, man. Well, anyway, JBA Montana. I'm gonna drop the link, and we're gonna continue. We're actually in the midst of talking about Chicago and their political problems, or lack thereof, and a few other things. What's going on, Ash? How's that baby? And how's Trigger doing? How's Trigger doing?
It's good.
Yeah, what's going on? You got to send me a picture of the email me a picture of the baby, Ash. I know she's big. All right, jump on in. So we just continuing the flow. What's up, Adam?
Yeah. I think I don't know where we left off. I think we was talking about cartels or
The
something.
cartels
But
and the banks, and I think we left off talking about the mob and how it controls Chicago. He said it was a closed city.
well, I don't know about that now, but I would need somebody that maybe is more senior from Chicago to sign that off.
Well,
I
hey,
mean,
it's right there.
You can't judge Chicago on what you see on the streets. You know what's happening in Chicago is a result of multi generations of decisions that are being made by people who don't necessarily match the demographics of what you see on the streets.
Okay.
you in Chicago now? Or you from Chicago?
I'm in the Chicago area. I grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
I grew up in Chicago back in the '60s and the '70s,
Oh,
and
okay.
I saw the changes of the people over the decades.
Mhm.
You know, the demographics change, but the actual general trajectory of things remain the same.
Okay.
And what's also interesting to me about Chicago and about the fervor of the Chicago issue that sort of extends beyond Chicago is, a generation or so, all of the crime rates, the murder rates in particular, were easily double what they are now. I mean, it was much, drive-by shootings, for example, in the late 80s and the I guess 80s and 90s were much more frequent than they are now.
Mm-hmm.
During the height of the crack epidemic in particular, and the corruption, particularly involving law enforcement, was just much more blatant. I've known people who where it was clear that some law enforcement officer was affiliated with somebody who was in the drug trade, and this person had a dispute with someone, and the next thing you know, a few days later, the person with whom they've had a dispute is dead on the streets. So as crazy as things may
now?
appear externally now, they were much
Oh
crazier
yeah,
in the
that's
late
me.
80s and the early 90s. Much crazier.
Yeah, because you're right in the middle of a quote unquote
Okay.
flood of drugs and a drug war. Basically, the United States was basically using the so-called drug war, the funding of basically black neighborhoods is the funding for the defeat of the Soviet Union, because they're actually fighting that war down in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
Colombia and Central America, Nicaragua,
South
Colombia.
America. Yeah.
Yeah, Colombia, Nicaragua, South America, the whole kit and caboodle. They're actually fighting a whole. It wasn't really a drug war. It's basically a revolutionary war going on down there, and they were trying to drain the Soviet Union, which they did. And once it did, then that's when right after the Soviet Union fell, then Bush comes up with the crime bill because he had to clean up his mess.
Exactly. So when I look at what's going on in Chicago, again, maybe the faces you see on the street
Mm-hmm.
may or may not change,
Mm-hmm.
but the infrastructure, like I said, I mean, much of this is multi-generational,
Mm-hmm.
and much of it is people who are able to move on to other things, or certain factions of their familial structure are able to move on to other things.
Mm-hmm.
But the foundation from which all of this stuff was born is still the same. And like I said, I mean, as recently as 10 or so years ago, we had a mayor in which dozens of his administration were charged and convicted and incarcerated for assorted federal crimes.
You know what? I recently did something interesting because I think it was Soul and Black actually challenged me to actually find out what was going on with the young boys in Baltimore, right? And how come the unemployment was so high for the young men in Baltimore? So I did a perusal about how many basically young men in Baltimore there actually was, right? And I came up to the point where you below 25, there's something um, like maybe 20, like maybe 25, 30,000 maybe, right? And the people the at-risk youth they were actually talking about was maybe 10,000, okay, which were actually troubled. And so it said, okay, you're 40 miles from Washington D.C. You just spent trillions of dollars cleaning up a mess, right? How much would it cost to actually come down there and basically get those boys off the street per person? Wouldn't cost very much, maybe $1 billion at max, which is nothing. Okay.
But do you ever think there was any motivation, BGS, to
Yeah.
actually do that?
The thing is not motivation, is why would you allow it to go on? There's plenty of motivation. Okay. If you think that it's an eyesore and people are getting kids, gets, what is it, the first or second highest murder rate in the country? If that's not
But
motivation,
who is being murdered? Who's being murdered?
I
And who
know.
cares about who's being murdered?
The thing is, I'm getting to the point. Okay. The fact is that it happens, and you should care about it, right? Because it's an eyesore, right? And you talk about 10,000 guys. Okay. The reason that you don't is because you need them to sell drugs on the street. But basically, that's a containment. They're a pipeline, a well-contained pipeline to keep it from actually spreading out to the rest of the whole county. The rest of the county, the rest of the state is clean, fairly clean, right? How come in this little pocket in Baltimore is where all the action is? And why who allows it to go on? And why?
I mean, I don't really see where there's any motivation amongst the powers that be to change the status quo. I don't see that. And I would say the same thing in Chicago.
Because they need you right there, because drugs and that kind of legality make way too much money for the banks.
Exactly.
And it's not, and basically, and you don't want it to spread out into white suburbia.
Yeah, but usually what happens is, and people who maybe have mathematical or statistical backgrounds know that they're able to create models to discern between both the arrest and the murders, that eventually there will be adjustments in the numbers that will mitigate the extent of the spread that you refer to. I mean, they know a certain number of them will be killed, a certain number of them will be arrested, and so the spread of the concern of the spread will be mitigated by that.
Yeah. Okay. Let me deal with this question real quick. How will the jails make money if they solve the problem? They won't. Okay. Where in other words, jails are not a profit making venture. Basically, they make money off your taxes. So if you wonder why Chicago schools are shitty, why your pension plans are actually in the toilet, and you're in debt, look no further than you locking people up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Before that,
having shitty schools, so they never get to the position where they can compete on a level that they won't be locked.
That is true, but the thing is, it also affects white people because you have to pay more for college and more for everything else because you're sinking so much money into jails and prisons. Okay,
white supremacy costs.
But if you're willing to steal from the majority of white people for the benefit of a smaller percentage of white people, so be it. See, you're assuming that they're concerned about the interests of all or the majority of white people, when if they can do so, they will steal from the majority of white people for the benefit
but white people got to go along with that, though.
So why are the majority of white people allowing them to steal their money?
Because they are, well, for one, they're so concerned about what the evil black man will do in Chicago that they make some hysterical decision making with respect to who they elect and support in political office, because they're not making rational decisions.
I'm one of the few people that actually goes in front of folks with this law and order mentality and actually put it into dollars and cents. Black people don't. The vast majority, I would say 99.9% of black people will not do that, and they're shocked.
Okay, but I would say not necessarily the same number percentage, but I would say a fairly high percentage of white people draw the same conclusions. And again, if you can make black people, if you can make white people so afraid of the evil black man, they will make irrational decisions electorally and financially, and that's definitely the case in Illinois.
And what I'm saying is, have black people made the case and put it in dollars and cents in front of them where they can't ignore it? Have they done that?
No. Oh, hell no.
No.
Because they're too.
I agree, they have not.
Because they're too busy. This is where this is why I say, if somebody would have asked me what should I do politically, my personal belief is you primary the living shit out of anybody. If black people want to vote Democrat, you primary the living shit out of them, because this is where you would offer, why aren't you doing it? Okay, we realize you're not going to because you're looking for a bigger career outside of Chicago or something like that. So we need to replace you with people that are actually going to make that case from that perspective. But see, that's when now you hold black people accountable for voting out of habit, because even if you say, okay, we're not going to play the vote another party game, we're going to deal just with the Democratic Party. Well, you can actually choose another candidate within the primaries, but black people are nowhere to be found in primaries, in local or
okay. But Edward, if you're familiar with Chicago, there is a class of black political gentsia that is multi-generational, that they attended certain schools, and they're from certain backgrounds, and they're from certain suburbs, etc., that will reinforce, support, and back their own. And they are a faction and an affiliate of the overall Chicago.
They're not the majority.
So in other words, what you're telling me is Chicago is so locked and so corrupt and so dialed in that nothing can change. It's so solidified.
I'm not saying that nothing.
That's
can
what
change.
It sounds right. That's what
I hear what you're saying. But so now we look at the black people that are not in that. They go along with it. So in those groups, you got two fact groups. You got motherfuckers that believe that voting doesn't matter, which I understand why they would say that naturally. But this is why you got the Tariq Nasheed, the Corey Hogan, you got to say, okay, you can say that naturally to a certain extent. as far as the president. But when it comes to local, that shit needs to not be said, and y'all need to explain that. And then you hold on, then you got the faction of black folks that they go along with the very people you talking about, because the only thing they can see is Republican, Democrat, or whatever bullshit they got. This is why you got Lori Lightfoot in there in the first fucking place.
BGS, Edward, let me speak. I have run for political office.
Okay.
In Cook County, Illinois, and I've seen the beast up close and personal.
Okay.
I've seen all of the electoral fraud, and I've seen its connections to people in high offices. Okay. I've been in positions where I've run for political office and have had people at the county and even state level participate in political campaigns vying against me, doing robocalls against me.
All right.
You know, so my point is that the rot to which I refer is deeply rooted, is multi-generational, it's all consuming, and it transcends. It transcends race. It's not just black people, because what you find very often is that there are black people, white people of different, very different backgrounds, who, for whatever reason, have a particular interest in supporting someone who is your opponent, and you cannot understand why, except that they are a part of a larger machine.
So what you're saying is black people from Chicago are just as stupid as black people from Detroit, and they're going to wind up.
I wouldn't say they're just as stupid,
and they're going to wind up just like them.
I would say they are some of them are very much as corrupt. I would just definitely say that.
Well, we're talking about the electorate. We're not talking about the politicians.
But the electorate is being informed by the politicians. These people have relationships. These people attend churches together. They went to school together.
You're saying they're just as stupid.
In other words, what you just said, and because you just disagreed with me I said that it's so embedded, so rotten, so concrete that there's nothing that you can do with it. And then I said, then you said, well, yes, you can. And then you proceeded to tell me what you can't do again.
Well, I don't know if I said that you could or could not. What I attempted to do.
Something wrong?
Let me bust this wide open for you, man.
And this is why niggas leave, by the way.
I'm from Chicago. What you got in Chicago is a class. It's a classism amongst black people. Okay.
Which I was actually trying to explain, but
So you have the like boule class blacks, and then you have the quote unquote just regular black folks, and then you have the poor black folks. Actually the black Cook County politicians are primarily black. The mayor is black, the Cook County president is black, the attorney general is black. I mean, even the assistant.
They're female, by the way. That's an important.
So you know what that means.
That's the black female gynocracy, of course. But yeah, it's black people in office in higher seats.
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on what can y'all do about it. I'm still waiting on.
No, they're just gonna explain. I mean, what black people
they're already doing something about it. They're
like
already doing something about it. They moved out a lot of those people moved out of those areas where it's a lot of gun violence. They only go to church. I mean, just about. Or
I'm talking. In other words, they moved out, but did that solve the problem?
I would say it's simply this way, BGS.
Okay.
We have seen the enemy, and he is us.
Okay. Now that you, in other words, I said
he looks like us.
I said it's intractable. Okay. In other words, what you were telling me is that is an intractable problem, and you said that is not the case. Okay. So now, how is it not intractable?
Well, admittedly, I don't recall necessarily saying specifically it's not intractable as much as I was attempting to try to.
He was explaining why it was intractable.
The depth of the problem. Now, whether it's intractable, I mean, I would not necessarily argue that it's intractable.
Okay,
and
there's a permanence associated with that word that at this point I'm not necessarily asserting, but I'm attempting to explain to you the depth of the problem.
Well, and this is why
you told me this is the same problem that's going on for y'all. I'll let you get in right after this, Edward. This has been going on for 100 years, man. You said in the 60s.
Well, it has been going on for. It's very deeply rooted and multi-generational. And there are friends of friends and sons of friends, and who went to college and high school, and whose grandson, and it's all that. Yes.
So what are we complaining about?
Yes. What
because they want it that way. Because here's the thing: even the people that are suffering, you know, they don't vote. A lot of them don't even vote. They say fuck it, voting don't matter. So it's like different elements that contribute to the situation in like different ways. I understand the Belay people just go protect they don't deal with the backlash of it. What they deal with is it looks bad. But even the quote unquote upper classes of black people in Chicago, which I am very much aware of, is they don't suffer from any of the black folks. They don't suffer from any of the backlash other than it makes Chicago. They would be perfectly fine with things how they are if Chicago didn't look so bad, you know, from a outsider's perspective. You know, if Chicago, they'd be perfectly fine with a lot of Negroes suffering in silence. This is one of the things about the Democratic Party that I keep telling people, and it's not about me telling people to vote Republican. I'm telling people that people need to stop tolerating that shit, that benign neglect, suffering in silence bullshit that black people are pretty much used to and they accept. So on the one hand, you got people that don't believe in voting and don't believe in economic contribution. And you got another group that'll do the quote quote economic piece to maintain their power or their, you know, being comfortable in the plantation. And then when people speak to it, it's this kind of like nothing can happen. And this is why not only black people, but white people have just said, fuck it. And they've left. And then now that's another thing why the tax base in Illinois is so shitty, because it's always drew from Chicago. And I mean, there's an article a couple of years ago talking about there's been like a couple of 100,000 millionaires that just said fuck it. And you know, those are mostly white people. They've gone to the South and gone to like Texas, Florida, and other North Carolina and other spots. So people are not hearing that. I get what you're saying, black people, and I agree with you, but people are not hearing that. And I said the same thing when it comes to a lot of issues with black people. I was just on Green Gorilla stuff not too long ago. They were talking about Pan-Africanism. And I said, people are not going to hear the kind of emotionalism of it. It gets to details, it gets to brass tacks. And if they get to the conclusion that like what you got to black rule, they're going to be like, okay, well then I'm going to do something. And that's called me getting out of fucking Dodge. Well, why are you leaving, man? Because we've already been down this road. And clearly, this road is going nowhere.
But I think you all have ignored or maybe skipped over. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think you all kind of look past the fact that I said 3 of the last 6 or 7 governors of the state of Illinois have done federal prison time.
Well, that's a representation of who. Well, what does that say about the electorate if it's 3 out of the 7? I mean,
I think you cannot underestimate what that means. I mean, where else in the country
that means that people from Illinois are just as stupid as people from Michigan? That's what that means.
So if you're going to confront black people decision making in Chicago, who are the least resourceful and have the least power and political influence and whatever, I don't think you can really fairly evaluate and assess and critique them outside the fact that 3 of the last 7 governors have done federal prison time.
So that has nothing to do with what people deal with in the city, because
in
black
Chicago,
people's experience in the city is completely different.
If you think there's an actual disconnect between what's going on, Blagojevich himself was from Chicago. If you actually think there's a disconnect between what's going on at the state level and the fact that the head political executive
let me finish.
If you think there's a disconnect between the head executive figures in the entire state of Illinois, if you think there's a disconnect between that and what's going on in Chicago, you really don't understand how state and city government work.
So I am not saying it's all black people's fault, but it damn sure ain't none of black people's fault either. And that sounds like that's the argument you're trying to make.
Yeah, okay. What I'm saying, what I want to say is, and Vernon, you can jump in anytime you want to, bro. Unmute yourself and jump in. What I want to say, man, is that we get, most black people in the country, man, we get so much grief about what to do in Chicago, right? What are you guys gonna do in Chicago? What are you guys gonna do in Chicago? Chicago got this killing all these people. We get this thrown in our face daily about black folks ain't doing nothing because Chicago.
Nigga get chilled in China. What are you
Blah,
gonna
blah,
do
blah,
about
blah.
Chicago?
I wish
Blah,
they
blah,
had
blah,
asked
blah.
about Chicago in the late 80s and the 90s
Oh, they
when you
did.
couldn't fucking
Oh, they
walk down
did.
the streets
They
without
did.
getting a
Oh, they
drive-by. I wish
did.
they'd have asked about
They
it then.
did. They did.
No, they
Because
didn't. They're not
yes, they
asking
did.
about it the way they're asking about it now.
Well,
You know,
they say black on black
you know why, Uru? Guess where the murder capital was in the 80s and 90s?
Well, LA or New Orleans or whatever.
LA, which is where the crack cocaine era actually started. That's why.
Sure.
Because LA is a bigger city, and LA had the biggest problem
too. With ain't no black people there. The Puerto Ricans of all, not even Hispanics. You about to be in a situation where the Puerto Ricans are about to be a larger, let alone Hispanics in general. Asians and Indians love Chicago as far as gentrification. I'm not trying to be critical just for the sake of being critical. It's like people don't understand that you wake up one day. I'm not talking about you because obviously you're older, but I'm talking about people who are more closer to my age. You wake up one day and you be like, well, how did this happen? And it's like, well, you do realize it's too late at this point. The how does it happen? We're past that. And people are like, well, why didn't anybody say anything? I'm talking about millennials now.
People did say something. Chicago, they've been complaining about
exactly,
Chicago,
but people are tone deaf.
It ain't never changed. But the thing is that when you tell me this is an intractable problem, and basically the people in Chicago are good with it, then why am I worried about it?
But they weren't necessarily good with it. I mean, Harold Washington, the late great Harold Washington was elected in 1983. He was reelected, and many of his supporters were white in 1987. Sadly, he died soon thereafter. He was replaced by a black operative. His name was Eugene Sawyer, who eventually was surmounted by Richard M. Daley, who then ran the city for 25 years after that. And he summarily bribed most of the high-level black officials, including many of the clergy in the city, during the course of his 25-year reign. And then he was replaced by an affiliate of his, Rahm Emanuel, who was also affiliated with the Clinton administration.
And this is why, I heard, who was it? What place? I think it was on the Cold Breakers. Rodney was on there, somebody, and Beasley was on there too. And he was acting like he couldn't understand. And obviously Beasley's from LA, so I get that. But he was saying, he couldn't understand why you have people like Mr. Fantastic or Ramil, this kind of newer breed of dudes that are on some hyper-individualism. I don't give a fuck about anything you talking about, and
until the cops crack their asses over the head.
Well, yeah, they're not that stupid, because some of them, because like Ramil, like
I don't know.
I ain't telling some people.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, I'm not telling nobody's business.
I'm waiting to see what happened when they have to deal
like, for instance, let's take because I fuck with Ramil. Let's take Donovan Sharp for example. Donovan Sharp said admittedly on a public platform he's got 2 felonies. He said that on the thing we interviewed C Boogie and Solo. So my point is there's a difference between people operating a certain way and then being just absolutely gang goofy about it, like some of the other folks on some, I love the police. There's 2 different things. And I get there's difference between Anthony Brian Logan's and Brandon Tatum's. Let's say that. And, even though they may say the same shit, behind the scenes, they kind of know the difference between where their bullshit stops and where reality starts. Tatum doesn't understand that. Anthony does.
Yes, he does.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I know on the outside it seems like they're the same person. I'm not saying I agree with everything that gets said, but what I'm saying is what people have to understand is people get that mentality, because if you actually hear how we've been talking, we've been saying it's really impossible to deal with, but at the same time, nobody wants to be told, okay, well, y'all are not going to deal with it, so I'm going to do my own thing, because then it kind of sounds bad. It makes people feel bad. And I've heard that kind of line of conversation in a lot of different, not just in Chicago, but I've heard that in a lot of different conversations we have. It becomes just like never ending, like circular loop of bullshit. And even in Chicago, what happens is people have left Chicago. Like my parents left Chicago. White people have hemorrhaged out of Chicago now for the different reasons, like the tax shit and stuff like that. Because that's when the BGS shit actually makes sense. All that putting black people in jail and the tax base and not getting shit for it, and you can get it from other states. Nobody's never talked about that. Now that makes sense. And then all those millionaires that they needed to stay, it really got the state budget fucked up. Well, now what BGS talks about actually makes a hell of a lot more sense from why white people should give a fuck about black people being locked up. You don't got like black people. They're basically creating jobs off your dime on giving black people free healthcare because they want to lock them up. For what? For what? And for what? And you're paying more. But see, nobody never thinks about that because now black people get to the overall corruption and how a lot of different groups are invested in it. So the only solution
and the irrational fear of the black hat.
What's the black hat? We're talking about the
South, and they don't like black people here either. But they're not gonna allow to justify bullshit like that.
But what all I'm saying is, if the people in Chicago, I'm not gonna tell anybody in any other city how they should live their lives or what they should put up with or not put up with, right? But what you're telling me that this stuff has been going on for so long. You put mayors in prison. You put governors in prison, which is almost unheard of for the most part, and nothing changes. And you guys just shrug your shoulders and say, "Okay, it's Chicago," and keep stepping. So why should the rest of the country be concerned about it? That's why
I never said you should have been, especially.
I'm asking a question to you. You can say, well, you shouldn't be, and that's if that's the case, because we get Chicago thrown in our face all the time about what should you do with it. How are we gonna help them folks in Chicago, and what are we gonna do?
Well, I've always viewed it to be this sort of convenient sort of political football or tactic that was waged by certain conservatives and particularly these hood conservative types to try to score points or win an argument, but was wholly invalid from my perspective, for the standpoint of actually dealing with any sort of real issue that someone should make, any sort of issue that one should make political decisions of, particularly at the federal level. I don't think what's going on with Chicago should have a damn thing to do with who you vote for in Congress or at the for the presidency.
What I'm saying is because this has been a long time, and this is liberals and conservatives that has used Chicago as a football, right? And every time you talk about the ills of black folks, Chicago is at
wasn't the Cadillac Queen shit that Clinton did? That was Chicago.
And what I'm saying is that because most of the country believes, right? Because I used to be a liberal and or progressive, and I'm basically an agnostic politically now. But that's been waved in our face for years, man. It's like okay, well, maybe there's something going on. Maybe there's something that we should do in Chicago. With Chicago schools are poor, and they're moving the kids out of the schools, and there's all this violence.
Let me say this.
Hold on, Uru. Hold on a second, man. Okay. What I'm saying is that, but nobody from Chicago and says, you know what, mind your own business. This is the way it runs in Chicago, and that's the way it is. In Washington, D.C., they sure will tell you this is the way D.C. runs, and mind your own business. Nobody ever talked about cleaning up D.C. It was always a Washington, D.C. problem. They tell you, mind your own business. We'll do it. I think Chicago should do the same thing.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think Chicago has been used as a political wedge issue, particularly considering the fact that our most recent former president was a Chicagoan. So I think that has been a convenient lever waged by some against the Democratic Party in particular, and against President Obama in particular. So I think Chicagoans have never really, and every city, and I'm sure you would agree with this, every city has its own different general kind of persona or mentality. And Chicagoans generally do not actually give a fuck about other people very much.
Okay.
We don't generally care about how you feel about us in general. I would say New Yorkers, for example, are much more, in general, ornate or more flamboyant or more, and certainly Los Angeles are more stylish, and you see it manifest in particularly hip hop. You know, Chicagoans are much more matter of fact, just internally, and don't necessarily actually make a point of asserting their position or their particular status necessarily before the world. So, you know, Chicagoans are fine with killing each other or shooting each other.
Okay.
And it just being an internal thing here. It's only an external issue to the extent that people outside of Chicago want to make it an external issue. I don't see a whole lot of clamoring of Chicagoans, please come and save us, people in LA or New York.
That doesn't happen. No, and I don't think it didn't. It never happened in LA. I don't think it happened in New York. But the thing is, the pattern that everybody see. Here's the thing, man. You see, and I hear what you're saying, and that's absolutely right. But black people will be getting hemorrhaged out of, you know, DC has only got replaced by foreign blacks for the most part. But black people are getting hemorrhaged out of everywhere. They're getting hemorrhaged out of New York to a certain extent. They're getting hemorrhaged out of LA. They've been getting hemorrhaged. This is what I was saying with Beasley. And black people are really slowly getting hemorrhaged out of Chicago.
But crime is not chasing people out of Chicago. Opportunities are chasing people out of Chicago.
Well, yeah.
Schools are chasing people out of Chicago.
No. It's not crime with any of them. It's basically the opportunity, the cost of living, lack of opportunity, all that. But see, here's the thing. There's other people that are coming in that are basically creating their own opportunities. And we understand that the system kind of helps alleviate that to a certain extent. It helps a lot, but at the end of the day, this becomes a bigger issue with black people as a whole, where when people always want to come under the moniker of pro-black, this is assuming I'm past the sexual politicking piece, where I've already filtered all of them that they're really sexual politicking, calling that pro-black. The folks that are serious, then it becomes this, well, you're doing that, but there's no real like sustainable, scalable thing that is being done that could be actually replicated. It's just people basically taking water and water that's in a sinking ship and throwing it out in the ocean, but there's holes that are filling it up. So it then becomes.
It's a revelation to me because I have a guy in my old think tank that at least once a week and he lives in St. Louis, which has a higher murder rate. Talking about Chicago, so next time he actually puts up the stats about what Chicago did, I'm saying, you know, if people in Chicago don't care, neither do I.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they care to the extent of whether or how they're able to survive and thrive in their own particular environment. But they definitely don't care about it beyond or extending outside of Chicago and at any sort of national level. Or
you know what happened amongst the gang members, not the police, but the gang members, when the drive-bys had reached the peak. You know what happened in like 91, 92? They actually stop all the killing that was going on in the street, at least tamp it down. You know what happened? The gang members got together and called a truce. The gang members.
Well, you had similar kinds of overtures in Chicago, actually.
But the thing is, it happened in LA and they stopped.
Well, again, I will say if you compare the murder rate to of present day Chicago to that of 25 or 30 years ago, is as bad as it may be in relation to LA or New York or wherever, it's certainly nowhere near what it was.
No, I'll give it
25, 30 years ago.
That definitely
has gone down. The incentive, one, you killed off most of the people, and two, the money is not anywhere near what it used to be. So those are two things that have gone on.
Absolutely, and it just comes down, like I kind of take the Chicago art. It's not even about Chicago, so to speak. It's just you see the same thought patterns everywhere. It's this kind of defending it. Not the it being like the situation that somebody may be dealing with locally or at locally, but at the same time, there's no real solution. It's kind of like,
Yeah,
what do you do? And then when people get hyper individualist on you and they start talking about, I'm voting for Trump because I'm voting for my interests. Fuck this bullshit. Well, pro-black, pro this, pro that. Like, man, I was just hearing Jason Black doing a post talking about, all these cornball, manosphere folks talking about dating out. You shouldn't use black women in your titles and shit. Like,
get fired out of here, Jason Black.
Like I'm like, nigga, I say, do you understand how much old shit we got? Like, nigga, you got this is the type of shit.
Jason Black, if Jason Black really got something to say, we have streams all day long. He can pop his ass on one and actually compete, okay, or invite us over, which he ain't gonna do. So shut the fuck up.
Well, but that's my point.
Tell him I said it. Either get in and actually hash this out, and shut the fuck up.
But my point is, even with them, and I even see it with Tariq, it becomes this kind of self-sustaining hustle. This is why, and I hate that, because I know a lot of folks will tag them with that in order to just discredit some of the stuff they're saying, but at the same time, it makes it easier to pull that tag, because you hear the same, like, just believe in this shit. And I know, Black, who you're not defending that position, but I'm just saying in general, they'll be like, believe in what we're doing. And I'm like, so what are we doing? Well, you should just hang in there. And I'm like, all right.
One thing about the manosphere, man, in 5 years, we moved the goalpost more than most black men have moved it in the last 30. Okay, we moved the goalposts. Okay.
I can tell you one thing I recall about Chicago growing up.
And they can bring their ass over here. We can debate this all day long because I got receipts. Don't make me.
I can recall growing up in Chicago in the 70s and the 80s. Where you had lots of manufacturing or industrial concerns in the city. And I can recall the vast majority or all of the actual employees of many or most of these industrial concerns did not at all employ people of the local communities.
Okay.
There's an effect of that. There's an effect of having a factory that's employing hundreds of people, dozens or hundreds of people, and none of the people who live in the community adjacent to those concerns have any shot at all of ever being employed by those businesses.
Okay. So
what do people do about this? Was a very common thing that occurred. This is a very common thing that occurred in Chicago that influenced the economic development, the social development of many of the communities in Chicago. And so when you go back to when you hear about Chicago being the most segregated city, segregated major city in the United States, there's an impact to that. There's an effect of that.
So I mean, you guys are good with it. So
no, I'm not saying we're good with it. I'm saying this is what happened. And
you just wait a minute. You just said that you guys are comfortable with the status quo.
No, I said we were comfortable with respect to how it's perceived outside of the United States. Are you saying we should protest to the president that some local factory won't necessarily hire some people?
I mean,
I don't necessarily expect that would happen.
Hey, let's keep it real. The protested, the gang members got a place. I mean, look at what just happened with George Floyd. I mean, so let's not act like people are not averse to burning shit down. I'm not advocating for that.
I'm referring to what I observed in the 1970s, in the 1980s. I'm not referring to what is or should go on.
But the violence was there. That's what I'm saying. Directed violence, So what I'm saying is, like, I hear what you're saying, but it's because that's what Africans do too, by the way. You'll say, well, this happened, but that technically that can't be used, because if nobody fought against it, really fought against it, then clearly people because all the same politicians are being voted in. I mean, you motherfuckers want straight stealing elections.
This is why I can't do domestic politics with black people, man, because it makes no freaking sense, man. Well, you're being discriminated and locked out, and you have avenues that you protest not to the federal government to appeal to seizure, and you don't do it?
And it doesn't even have to go to the federal government.
Ah.
It doesn't even have to get that
It's like-
far. I mean, even from a local Chicago standpoint, this is where Black people had a lot bigger numbers at that point. And let's be clear here, we know how white people are. White people are gonna do whatever you let them do. Like if you make it easy for them, they'll run the store. All I'm gonna say,
Richard M. Daley was the Cook County attorney for about 10 years. Richard M. Daley, not his father. During this time, there were being dozens, if not hundreds, of Black men who were being tortured. And this was you may have heard or read about this recently. This is the same Richard M. Daley who became mayor of Chicago and was mayor of Chicago for about 25 years. This is Chicago. Let's not pretend like this is not Chicago. This is a different type of place.
Okay, so this is and I believe you, and a lot of Black people.
No, this is what happened. You don't have to believe.
No. I'm not. No, what I'm saying is this is why a lot of Black people left. And then when people, this is why, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the other side of this conversation is like the Ulysses side of conversation, the Mike B side, the Black Brain Trust kind of conversation. When people would then ask, well, why don't you come back? And I'm like, and people are like, come back to what? Like, oh, wow.
We don't hear you, Edward.
Yeah. I think you cut out, bro. Yeah.
Are you talking now, or?
He probably bored out.
Yeah.
Salute to everybody on the panel, though.
Yeah, same to you, Shango. Maybe you can run your thing, bro. Go ahead and do your thing, Shango.
Yeah, no,
I think Vernon. I don't know if Vernon was here.
Yeah, it was Vernon.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vernon. Speak on it, bro.
It was really more for because it was from a Nikole stream, and it's really to BGS. But I'm pretty sure you guys can answer that also. It was really about the hood servitors. I was wondering if it's not so much about politics, and it's really about them wanting to integrate into white society, because I try to connect it to the social dominance theory that Nikole and Nameless was talking about. And I just want to know if it wasn't really about them being conservative for the fact of the real conservative values that actually exist out there, but more of they want to be part of the in group. They just want to be within the white group. They want to be accepted in that. And that's why you hear them talk so much shit about the Black community, because they just want to get out their community and be as close to a white community as possible.
My honest view of the conservative is not so much that they necessarily want to be a part of the white community per se, because if that was their actual desire, they could easily, or they could attempt at least to do that. I don't get the impression that they necessarily want to be a part of the white collective. I think they want to somehow lord over and or punish the majority of other Black people. I think that's what their real objective is.
It's coming out of emotional hurt place.
Yes, and it should probably even go back to high school in many instances.
Yeah.
So it's really more of a grievance thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is what it. All right. So it's like an acting.
Whenever I hear hood conservatives and all that, I instantly reflect back upon my high school days, because it just seems so familiar that this is very much a kind of revenge of the nerds or whatever, however you might try to characterize it. I think very often it's some, like you say, some sort of grievance against their youth. That's what I typically interpret of what they do. Because here's an indicator why it's not more than that. They very seldom refer to actual policy.
Yep.
Because if you refer to policy, you will realize that there's no clean cut between one party or another with respect to the vast majority of policy issues in this country. Both parties contribute to and feed upon the very issues that they decry and complain about. So because they don't refer to actual policy, it's difficult for me to take serious much of what they say.
And to add on to that, it's another avenue for at least within this collective, is just another coping mechanism for the cultural trauma that they've experienced, as far as just the Black experience. And it's just, it's converted into this ideology and being that buffer class and allowing that quote unquote little white man that's inside of you to take its full effect and express itself in this manner.
Yeah,
Going
it's
back
turned into
to
a ritual.
right. So this is so really, because this has been discussed at length in regards to just variation of how one can cope with the Black experience here, right? Because it is a traumatic experience. Obviously, we go through it and people respond to it in different manners. What you're seeing with the conservatives or the hood conservatives is the amalgamation of it being the personal trauma that they felt, using that as fuel and putting the conservative tag on it, so then they can, one, separate themselves from the group and have a false sense of power, an artificial sense of power, as far as separating themselves as this artificial buffer class between the Black community and themselves, as well as concurrently being able to express their it's a cathartic way of expressing their trauma, because when you hear them on each of these panels, it gets very personal. It doesn't get to the policy. It's just about, oh, these niggas ain't shit.
Hold on for a second, West Coast. Look, if y'all conservatives want to actually have a conversation, man, don't do it in the chat. Get your ass up here on the firing line and you know, grab your balls and get on the firing line and stop hiding in the chat, all right? Because I'm gonna start timing people out. Okay, if you want to have a conversation, yeah,
they're not gonna get on this panel.
Well, they need to chill then. They need to chill. Okay. Oh, but go ahead, finish your thought, West Coast.
Yeah, so basically, even as you can see here in the chat, it's just another form of it. It's a cathartic expression of releasing that trauma that they experience, and it's not a slight. It's not to disparage them. It's just me observing that, hey, a lot of the things that you're talking about from a policy standpoint, they're not adding up and they're not clear cut. And the talking points and narratives that you're using, they're very personal. And so that's what's determined my observation of the reason why they have this particular tag, but it's not lining up on a policy level. And so that's something to take into account in this space. It's become a de facto therapy session. So there are people who
look, if you're going to talk about welfare and not talk about the farming industry of sector of this country, you are on some complete and total bullshit.
They're not gonna. Basically, the vast majority of people on welfare are white. They're not gonna eliminate.
Exactly.
The Midwest would cease to exist if they did that, and everybody knows.
White people would starve. White people would starve in this country all throughout.
And this is where we start. One of the stuff that I call out is when people start to. Everybody has like their faction. And the question is, we all
can I be heard?
You have to be.
We can hear you, DC. Right after Edward.
Okay.
You have to be in the middle. You have to be in the middle where you enter into this. Okay, I'm going to be rational. I'm going to be
turn it up though, Edward, so other people can get in.
Okay, I'm going to be rational. I'm going to be logical, and don't fall in love with somebody's fucking faction. And one thing when it comes to whether it's conservatives or whoever, is people do too much falling in love with their own faction and sheep talking their talking points, and then they don't want to actually engage in, okay, what's the logic of what you're talking about? This is why I often don't like to just blanket people like hood conservatives, because there's a difference between somebody that's like, there's like three, I'm gonna say I'm almost done, like 15 seconds. There's three types of folks. You got the folks that are just being defiant, you got the folks that are pro-white, and then you got the folks that are more, they're traditional conservative, they ain't for the gay shit, immigration shit, and shit like that. Or the Democrats are not doing enough to actually advocate for their vote. Those are three distinct type groups that you can see like lumped into one group. So anyway, I'll leave it at that.
All right, go ahead, DC.
Can a brother enter from the outer rim? Please.
Captain Solar, you're cleared for landing. Go ahead.
And I proceed.
Welcome.
Yes, indeed, man. Interesting, man. But I guess I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Black Euro was saying in West Coast. When you speak about, I'm sorry, I'm kind of working out right now, but when you speak about Black people, talking about other Black people and their failures, the one thing that they do not want to point out is that boogie white man that's out there that they can never compete against unless they have an actual mass support from Black people. That's why we get into these little fractions. That's why we get in these little groups. We get in these little silos. We get in these little what I call click banging, and we bang in the hood. You know, whether you're talking about hood conservatives, liberals, whatever the case may be. But one thing that we never going to actually try to come together on is dealing with who put us here, who put us in this situation. Now, see, we could talk about, oh man, you know, Black people got the responsibility. True. All that's true. But you're gonna keep complaining about the Black people that are complicit. You're gonna keep complaining about the people that are compromised. And then, believe it or not, you're part of that too. Because if you want people to support you that you're not actually you don't have full belief in, then why should they support you if you're talking shit about it? It doesn't make any sense. So if you're talking about the hood or the people that are so-called in the hood, like they dumb, they stupid, they Negroes, why the hell would they support you for doing that? Just stay in your own little groups and your little silos and do what you do. But you just can't come back and just basically bang on them. If you're going to do that, then you get what you get. That's how I look at it.
All right. Anybody else want to jump in?
That's what I was saying with the Chicago.
Yeah, I'll jump in after people get their round going.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna make it quick because I gotta address real quick. I got next. The things you got to fix with Chicago is like a 4-point thing. The most key aspect is getting money into the hands of young entrepreneurs like myself. So build up our own boule shit because a lot of us do think, not a lot, but a few of us key members, industrious brothers, think like you guys in the manosphere, right? But we ain't got no fucking capital to expand our business.
Okay.
If we had an infusion of capital directly specified for us, we can make some gains. That's all I'm saying for the people in the chat. But go ahead.
Okay. No, is that it? Is that all you got?
Yeah, for now.
Okay, who hasn't gotten in that wants to get in?
I think what's his name? Ilbaria,
Ibarra, and L.A. Ramon. You guys want to get in?
Salakia brothers. My name is Arbaria. Arbaria. That's just Hebrew. Last one Kodash for Hebrew.
Okay.
I'm just listening.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to get in.
The thing we don't. Okay. Yeah. You come up here to participate. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love
now,
to.
You can listen from. You can actually listen from the. But the thing is, you're cool. You're cool until somebody actually wants to spot.
Can I be heard? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Here, I got a question. I go around and I hear you guys talk. I asked that question about the elected officials. Aren't they 1099? Aren't these people independent contractors working for hire? Okay, no. What are they?
They're elected politicians that actually work for the government. They're not 1099. Yeah. You're actually a government official. You work for the government when you get elected.
Exactly.
Okay. So
the county, they can't what?
No, I was going to ask you. So they're not allowed to lobby or be lobbied?
They're always lobbied, but they're not allowed to lobby because they're restricted by their government contract. Okay, by their government employment.
Yeah, I mean, there's inherently a conflict between you lobbying and being the entity that would be lobbied.
Well, I understand that, but here's what I'm saying. I hear you guys talk a lot, and I understand that we don't have a voting block. So in order to have a voting block, wouldn't you pull together your resources and lobby these people? Whether you had to create a partnership umbrella company, you can call yourselves IPMOR, corporation. Fund all these donations y'all getting, and take your lobbies to these people.
Well, that's the old way of doing things, right? ADOS got more done with no money. Okay, with no money. How do they do it? They actually scared the hell out of the Democrats with no money. How did they do that?
Well, I'm gonna throw another one at you then. See,
You can throw it at me, but answer my question before you throw another one at
I
me.
don't follow ADOS, so I can't even answer that.
No, so you don't have a clue. Okay, but they did it with no money.
Well, I know who Yvette Carnell them is. I talk.
I know,
but I just don't.
But they put the reparations in front of the Democrats with no money.
But Mr. Ivmore, what I'm saying is, Ramon don't subscribe to none of that. I'm not looking for reparations.
Ramon need to make bullet points so I can understand what he.
Well, I
that's
don't
what I'm about
subscribe
to
to
do.
white supremacy, but I know what they're doing. But go ahead.
I think you missed. I think you missed the principle of the question. Nobody's asking.
I think what BGS was trying to explain to you is there's a way to, based on the scenario, leverage your position, your demographic, without necessarily having to bring a whole lot of money into a scenario. Because of the issue itself and because of the timing of the application of the issue and the timing of the application of the reparation issue.
Exactly.
And the access, because before social media, you need a whole lot of money because you didn't have any power to get your issue in front of not only politicians but also the people. Okay, you had gatekeepers. Okay. So now you don't have gatekeepers like you used to. So there's other ways to do things.
Okay, well, let me say
and we have a current environment in which people are going to be voting non-traditionally.
Yeah.
So even the mentality of the voter today is very different than what the voter was 10 or more years ago.
Okay, but I'm gonna give you like 3 minutes to actually make your bullet points, man, because we don't need the.
I don't even need that
the build up. Okay.
Here, I'll just say this to everyone on this on this panel.
Mm-hmm.
What I have learned, because I have been down to the city here in Colorado, Colorado Springs.
Okay.
What I have learned, being there, talking to the people at the city, particularly because me and people who I work with in circles doing what y'all do, we go out here and do this. Okay. One thing I can tell you, they have HUD put out $5 to $10 million per city, per county. Here's what they did that I would say all the black women, and here's where it's black men, if we're going to be helpful, we could probably make this work. What they did with this new HUD grant, they put it out there that they're really trying to get women in here. So what they did was all the requirements are making women triple minority. So basically, if you black, you qualify for everything from just being black, being a woman, and then a woman in business. And then what they're looking for is for them to bring in wellness programs. You do remember Donald Trump signed that bill dealing with the meth. He said, this is for everyone who has those degrees, certificates, or who's willing to do a storefront. Who do you think, haven't we all been saying the number one people educated in this hemisphere right now is black women, and they particularly hold human resources.
Basically, you're advocating that we come up under women.
Okay, but
what I'm advocating
hold on. You still haven't given us the bullet points.
I'm gonna give it to you.
Well, give it to me, brother. Come on,
why don't we march our sisters and brothers and wives and stuff up in there and say, hey, go get this money, come back and hire us. We go out and do the building. What are y'all waiting on?
What do y'all? You in Colorado Springs? We're not.
No, they're doing this in all 50 states. I just said this is a HUD program. This is federal.
Okay.
Go down to your city and ask for the sustainability or the SDCU grants.
Because
it's all under the sustainable development
because we didn't
zones.
Well, the opportunity zone, but the thing is, you bringing us to our attention. We don't know about it.
Well, I listened to you, brothers. I thought y'all was hitting on this stuff already. My bad.
First time hearing about this.
In other words, we don't know everything, do we?
I think you brothers are on the right point. I just thought I'd throw a few tactics out there that I see we could probably use.
In other words, now, do you need lobbying to do that?
Not for that part, no.
Thank you. You don't. In other words, there are ways to do things and take advantage of things that you don't need to lobby for.
I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I hate to be this guy, but whatever. I guess that's what I'm here for. That's a non-starter. What you're talking about? Because number one, people want things to improve, but they don't want things to change. and the system, and that does not change the systematic issue that we have as Black people as far as us being at the bottom. There is no competitive Black community where where things that are built in puts Black women above us systematically, to where Black women have to go to white daddy and white daddy filters money. That's another level of control. So even us buying into that would basically be us buying into our own destruction.
So in other words, what's the name? What's the name of the HUD HUD bill?
It's
HUD
the
program?
It's a sustainable development community grant. Okay.
And when was it signed in?
This was just January of 2020.
In other words, it's very new. Most people don't even know about it, man.
Ben Carson is the one that put it into play.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Now the brother said what he said, so let me at least respond to that.
Okay.
Hey man, I'm off. I've been through the University of Activism. I've been down the road. I went to the first Million Man March. I did all that. Believe me. I can show you my resume. You'll be like, yeah, this brother that went through the any means necessary. We should overcome. Pump your fists. I'm Black and I'm proud. And one day I looked up and I had to look back in my community. Guess what I remember seeing? All of us creating these problems. Now, here's something I don't hear going on in these circles. Everybody talking about these crime bills, but you didn't talk about the people that authored it, which was Maxine Waters, C. Dolores Tucker, Calvin Butts. What's his name just died recently? The bald head guy, the one get hit in the head all the time. Over the
I do that all the time, sir. I gotta interrupt there. I talk about it all the time.
A lot of
okay,
cool.
I'm glad you do. Then I'm glad you do. But what I'm saying is, we ain't holding these people's feet to the fire. Maxine Waters didn't even want to let us didn't even want people with child support getting the stimulus check. So that's a pretty dead shot at who she's going after.
And sir, I hear what you're saying, and this is why, even though
I'm saying here's what I'm saying though, white supremacy might exist, and I'm not going to deny that. But what I'm saying is, I grew up in an all-Black community. I'm from Oklahoma City, Spencer, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is pretty much all Black, okay? And I can tell you, it's a cowboy environment, has been and probably will remain. There is no color structure. No white people ever came in our neighborhoods and took nobody out. I was actually told by the elders they used to let the Ku Klux Klan come march through the neighborhoods peacefully to go to wherever they were going. Now, this is what many of the elders have told me.
But understand that the elders are the ones that even Joe Biden, who is the one, and I said this, DC, who's the one that actually helped push Joe Biden in South Carolina? That was the older generation. And the reality is, and I'm not trying to blame this, ain't about turning to no old nigga thing, but the older
I know Joe John Clyburn,
because they come out of civil rights. A lot of them vote out of habit. And what you're seeing with a lot of the younger Black folks is they're rebelling against that. Now, people may not agree as to how they do it, because I said it earlier in this conversation. What you really should do, if you ask me personally, if I was dictator for a day, is I would say primary everybody. So that deals with the exact thing you're talking about. It'd be more effective to just primary everybody and replace them with people that we need. Black people need to start, they're going to vote. They need to start voting in the primaries a lot more. Local primaries, because that's when your vote actually counts a lot more. And that's where you can hold these people a lot more accountable. That's what the Tea Party did. And I think it was very effective. And people are talking about that. But at the same time, like, going back to what you were saying originally, and it makes sense that Ben Carson would have came up with something like that, because Ben Carson is not going to change the structure of how a situation is. What you talked about is to me no different than Section 8. It's the same thing where I've seen people say, oh, well, I'm going to work and then I'm going to live with you and then we can build together. The problem is when they start to move to Section 8, even if that works the way it's supposed to work, then all of a sudden you got to move with that. And then that's assuming a lot of.
See, I'm not talking
about a lot of.
Shorten it up, Edward. Shorten it up, Edward.
Then you're assuming a hell of a lot of cooperation from Black women that really just doesn't exist.
No, I'm not
operating as their own group. So even
Edward, let him rebut. Edward, let him rebut.
Yep.
Well, here's what I'm saying, bro. You don't see. This is what I'm saying. We got to get into a business mind. You can DBA your name. You can be Mark doing business as Mark. Go to them women and say, "Look, I'm not. I can show you where the money is, but I'm not doing it unless you do a contract with me. You don't have to get in bed with these people. I don't talk like that. I'm a very self-sufficient man. I do. Believe me, I am. I own my own business right now, doing the same thing all you guys do. I don't pay taxes, and I can tell people and show you how you don't have to pay taxes. The IRS told me that they sells. You just got to know the business status to be in, or the structure you got to set yourself up in. And
Ramon,
in this case, yes, sir.
Can I ask you a question? I think this may be important.
Mm-hmm.
When you enter in a relationship with a woman for whom you would use to leverage your way into some sort of favorable arrangement, what advantage do you have in that relationship with that woman? What do you bring to that relationship that she otherwise would not have to warrant her being able to obtain and utilize those funds?
Really, I don't think I have anything, if you want to know the truth. What I can do is I know how to make business proposals.
I think you're answering my question while not answering my question.
Okay, well then maybe I don't understand it.
I think to kind of address Edward's concern, I think the issue is when you enter in a relationship, a business relationship with a woman whom you're going to attempt to try to utilize her to gain access to these resources, you have to be able to come into that relationship from the standpoint of it's to her enduring benefit to maintain and honor that commitment. If you cannot get her to do that, if she does not think it's to her benefit to maintain and honorably commit to and maintain that relationship, then she will, as most women do, undermine you in some way. So again, my question to you would be, when you enter in a relationship with a woman, what does she think? What do you think she thinks that determines whether or not I'm going to properly honor this relationship with this man? Because if I don't do this, I am going to lose the benefit of A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. What is she going to lose if she try to defy you?
I'm looking for the sustainability thing, and I'm not coming up.
The only thing I found is some sort of San Diego County credit union.
We're looking for it, and we're not seeing it. So
I
see the SDCCU.
Well, just go on the HUD. I mean, go on to HUD. You can. It's all there. That's what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is, what is it? Okay, we'll go on the HUD because we're not finding it. Okay.
So to answer my question, how would you answer my question?
I'm basically I'm on the website. I got about 3 monitors, man. I'm on the website.
Brother, I'll send. I don't know how you can't find it. I was at the city. They're the one. This is something that should have.
Ramon, I can't find it, man. Tell me where to find it.
I couldn't find it either, Ramon. I couldn't find it either. I attempted to.
Do me a favor. And that's another thing too. We're not just like political. The manosphere is a mastermind. No.
But no, I want, if you don't mind, Edward, please. I want Ramon to try to convince us that it's worthwhile for us to enter in what might otherwise be a risky relationship with a black woman.
Well, here's what Well, hold on. I'll answer the question. See, you ain't even got to go. Now I got a daughter. I mean, I got many of them. They don't mind doing what dad says. They'll work with me. Now I don't know if y'all got them. Or
okay.
I told you about niggas. You said let me answer.
Okay.
If I can't even clearly.
Hey! Knock it off. It's not gonna turn into that. Okay. It's not gonna turn into an adversarial thing, right? We're here talking, right? Okay. Let him finish, and then you can actually talk. All right. It's not gonna turn into some nigga shit. All right. Now, let Ramon, let who said he's gonna say, then you respond, okay?
Well, here's my concern, Ramon. I mean, look, it's one thing when you think because you have some sort of familial connection and you believe that there's some assurance that your daughter, for example, is going to honor honor that commitment. But we're talking about third party man, third party black woman who isn't necessarily our daughter, isn't necessarily has any familial motivation or connection with us, are we going to actually be able to depend upon utilizing their status as a black woman to fully and formally honor that relationship to our benefit? How do you suggest we get to that point if she's not our daughter, if she's not our wife, if she's not our mama or whatever?
I mean, you said it. I mean, the answer is the money. You got. I mean, only thing I could tell you to answer to that.
But you haven't explained.
Again, well, let him finish. Let him finish, Uru. Let him finish.
Okay. I mean, here's how I would approach it. I'm just being honest. I don't know how you want to hear it. I'm just gonna go to my daughter.
Okay. Give it to her straight.
I would set my daughter up in a business structure, first and foremost, a DBA name, whatever. I would present to her opportunities. These are opportunities for her goal settings, for whatever it is she's trying to get into. And I will let her know that a portion of those proceeds will be commissioned for the sake of what it is I have done to do for that. I'm not trying to present anything that wouldn't just be straight up to them. I don't want people to think this is some type of scam I would be trying to, lead them into. So that's how I would approach it.
So what you're saying is, it's not so much that you bring some particular unique skill or whatever that would motivate a third party female to mutually honor the relationship. Is more or less using a trusted family member as essentially a front for you.
I would start there too, and I would also bring skill sets to it since you brought that up.
But that's what I was trying. That was actually my initial question. I was trying to understand what sort of power do you bring to the relationship in particular that would make her think twice about betraying you? Because the concern, let me finish. The concern that I think Edward and probably most of the men here would have about that sort of relationship would be the woman eventually betraying them. And since you would be wholly reliant on her to honor that arrangement, if she betrays you, you're fucked. And any commitment of resources, time, and effort you brought into that situation is lost. And so if she's not my daughter or mama or somebody who I presumably can trust, I'm vulnerable there. And thus far you couldn't contract. That's why you have not necessarily presented a reason why I should think otherwise.
Well, I asked you why you can't present a contract. Why would you even do business without a contract?
Because we're talking about social contracts at this point.
Well, hold on though, brother. You still got to have a contract to do business.
He asked you a question.
Here's my question to you, L.A. Ramon. Do you have a solution to resolve the residual impact of the cultural racism collectively that we face in this society, and pairing that with the economics and the political policy that you speak of?
Yes, simple. Go back to what we was just doing 50 years ago. Hold on. Here's what I mean.
Just let him finish. This is what I was talking about.
Well, let me ask you a question.
No. Let him
get it out.
What were we doing 50 years ago?
Okay, where I'm from, we were still on our own lands, and I'm trying to say to you, the community is still there. They pulled their monies together. Why can't we see that? This is why I asked earlier about
what community are you referring to? What community is there?
Okay, brother. All throughout Oklahoma, whether y'all think this or not, this is why there's so much controversy around there. You should go see it for yourself. This place is all black.
It's
contrary to what they're telling y'all. These are cities.
Oklahoma was designated as Indian and Black territory by the federal government.
From my family built Vernon, Oklahoma.
I know.
I'm pretty well sure.
So how is that going to work for people that are not from Oklahoma?
Correct.
Well, the people in Oklahoma came from out of these areas y'all all from.
No,
so doing the same thing. So here's what I would say. So here's what I would say, brothers. I'm gonna just present it this way. Okay. It would be easy for us to group ourselves under some type of partnership. Umbrella the things that you want to do under this partnership. Okay. We can control it with one. If you want to put a trust company or a holding company at the top, that would be the best way to do it. That way you guys can remove yourself from liabilities. You can place and tuck in shelters such as bonds, surety bonds. You got all kind of things that would empower us right now, would create assets.
What you need to do is flesh this out, because those are like basically override actually ideas. So you need to flesh this out, because to us, we've how many times have we heard stuff like this, man? We always what they always say, where does the devil always lie? It's
in
not
the details.
in the details. And that's what we're asking for.
Because we haven't even been able to actually find the particular program that he wrote.
There you have it. There you have it.
And to be fair, there's been people that's come on here to talk about getting government money from like the SBA stuff, and we have been able to find the website, and shout out to them. And people either take it up on that, and no, another dude from Oklahoma too is a guy by the name of Dale Gines. He has a lot of the same sensibilities you have when it comes to like working with black women or the fastest growing businesses and all that, which a lot of that stuff is not true. A lot of that's propaganda on its own. But so his stuff, he has a lot of data driven stuff, and he's good for that. But my thing is this: at the end of the day, the one of the core issues of black people is a issue. It's an issue. It's not about blaming black people, but we don't work together. And the business, and that is going to manifest in the business side. Now, does it always manifest that way? No. But when you talk about something, when it comes to the government and stuff, as soon as they monitor that or change that, I'll say this too. The fact that our women are seen as triple minorities, that's a problem. Because the truth is, you don't have a black community if black men are not competitive. The how strong black men are going to be a direct reflection of how strong the community is. There is no situation where black men are weak as a collective group, and then the black community is solid. And let's take black men out of it, and I'll pass the mic. There is no situation where I don't care what you give black women. Outside of giving them a white man and telling them that they're white as a group, it will never be enough unless the black community is solid. And you can't get there by making them a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minority. You just don't. And that's why they stay bitching. But anyway.
Here's the thing, Edward. This is by design. Like, this is what L.A. Reid to bridge the gap between what L.A. Ramon. I'm keep saying L.A. Reid. L.A. Ramon was mentioning about how things were back in the day, 50 years ago versus what's happening now, was the intersection of the government stepping in to dismantle the community and put it in this position culturally where the women have the power on a political scale, and systematically the boys are being tamped down. And the details that L.A. Ramon are missing, and which is why when these these ideas of, well, all you have to do is just focus on the economics and the rest will come, tend to fall off, is because you don't address the residual impact of the cultural racism that we experience here today. Outside of setting up that business that you're talking about, the external forces, we'll talk about your SWOT, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You're not living in a silo. So there are going to be individuals in there or interest groups that will make sure that the business that you're talking about setting up is dismantled, or it doesn't have as much power as you're looking for right now. And I think that piece of the argument isn't brought up either by convenience or is just a matter of ignorance when you're trying to think this through. Because it's a good idea to say, oh, all you have to do is come together. We've heard that in many different instances, and all they focus on is the economics without pairing the cultural residual impact. And the thing is, once those two are paired, if you can find a solution for intersectionality, find a solution for all of these programs and initiatives that are benefiting, particularly the BWs that Black Uru is trying to suggest to you as in breaking down your logic as far as having BWs and BMs come together, then you have a sustainable solution. But as far as you just saying or making the statement that, yeah, we can just do this and do things like it was in the old days, in a sense, it's not going to work based off of the current environment and the way things are set up currently.
And yeah, it didn't work all that well back then either. So.
Well, exactly. I mean, it will work to the extent that the brother had some actual leverage in the situation, and that the woman didn't have preeminence over whatever sort of legal or financial arrangement exists. But we're talking about entering in a situation where all the legal and financial power is in the hands of the woman.
I mean,
we don't have any historical precedent.
We know what upsets me, Uru, is they act like civil rights, like people marched and actually fought for civil rights for nothing. In other words, we had everything we needed. We needed to just go back to what it was in the 1950s.
Yeah,
it's like I mean,
that happened for a reason.
BGS.
Yeah, yes, sir.
You know, my mom and many of people on the South told me, since y'all keep bringing up civil rights.
My mama's 82. She's from Shreveport, Louisiana. She was actually a whatchamacallit? She was actually a sharecropper. Okay. So tell me about the 50s in South. I'm 60 years old. I was actually born in the 60s. So tell me about it.
Yeah, I can't tell you about the 50s, but I can tell you what my mom told me. That's what I'm
okay.
telling you.
I can tell what my grandma. I can tell what my grandma told me. Okay.
So they may have said some of this to you too, depending on where you were geographically at this time of the civil rights. Many states were not even experiencing that.
What?
Now this is
experiencing
the civil rights movement stuff.
I know, but they were experiencing racism all over the country.
Now here's what I found. Since you keep saying that,
including Oklahoma, because my neighbor's is actually from Tulsa.
I keep hearing that.
And he was born. He was born in the 40s.
What I found in the South, many of black people. This is actually in the records. Many of black people up and left the South, just walked away and abandoned land. Now this is a known.
Why did they do that?
Many of them went in search of the city life, Hollywood. Whether we want to admit these type of things or not, these are the setbacks that we go through that we don't talk about. We get to chasing dreams.
No. Let him finish. Let him finish. I want him to finish.
Yes, please let me finish.
Because I know that's bullshit, but go ahead.
Well, it might be bullshit until you go check it.
Dude, I lived it, man. I don't have to check it.
I'm saying you wasn't there to see everybody that walked away from their land.
The last great migration was in the 1960s. I was a kid in the 1960s. I know because the Dallas Sheriff Police Department drove my father out of town. That's like when we left Texas. I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I don't think you don't. What I'm sharing with you is other people's experience. See, that's what I'm saying. I've had.
No, go ahead.
You're going to have to provide some
references. Don't kick the chair, as BGS would say.
Go ahead, because you know what you're talking about, man.
I want to kick that motherfucker myself.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and try to one-dimensionalize the experience that we all been going through. Yeah, of course, I've actually experienced racism on the job where I had a white boy as a kill floor butcher ask me if I mind being called a nigga. So I don't have a problem with talking about all that. What I'm saying is it ain't getting me nowhere when I can really see the bigger picture was something we done. It ain't got nothing to do with these white folks.
What did we do?
Many of us started going into politics and selling the community out, not telling you that they wanted to develop in your neighborhood and helped you sell your property. That happened right here in Colorado Springs.
I feel like whoa, one at a time. What do you mean they don't tell you that they want to help you develop that?
The people, okay, when your aldermen, your mayors, or whoever they are, particularly back in them days, was mostly black people.
Okay, that's back in those days. Well, you weren't there.
No, that was here in the 80s. They had that still around us. I lived in the 80s, in the 90s.
My brother lived in Colorado Springs because he was in the Army.
Yeah, it was an all-black city for a long time. Nobody know where the black people went until I got to searching. And that's just what I told you. There was many of people got up and left these places.
You know exactly. You know why? Do you understand why? It's because especially the city of Colorado Springs basically went bankrupt, and basically they had more taxes. They owed more taxes than the homes were actually worth. So a lot of people just up and left the homes. That was
here's one for you, BG.
Hold on a second, dude. Here's one for you. Basically, go back and look at it, because I remember these weren't just black people; these were white people too. Where they had this big housing boom in Colorado Springs because they had all this open land. Because they're out by the military bases, right? Those areas went bankrupt and people just up and left the houses.
You're talking about the Mill. You're talking about the Mill Street Sand Creek massacre, and it was a black man named James P. Beckworth that led him into here.
No, I'm talking about the 80s, why people left Colorado Springs specifically, because I remember that was right after the what is it, the first housing bubble with the federal home loans thing. It actually blew up and basically blew up.
You're talking about the savings and loan scandal.
Savings and loan scandal. Remember from 86 to like 86 to 90.
Because McCain and ran that shit too.
And the Bush
government did time.
I remember that.
And basically that Colorado Springs was ground central for that. So a lot of people, and I remember if you go back on 60 Minutes, they actually told you people trying to sell their houses for $1 because they couldn't afford the taxes because the whole area just went bankrupt. So people just walked away from that. That was
one giant national pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it was.
So here's what I would ask.
It's not quite as big as the one in the mid 2000s. But go ahead. Go ahead, man. Last point.
I just want to ask you, BGS, because you seem to do real good leading this stuff.
The who?
Now you got this. I said,
wait a minute. You
said a good leader. I say you seem to be a good leader. So I'm gonna ask you this. You got a platform going here. Is it not possible to turn this platform into the guy keep mentioning we can't get black people together? Well, we're here right now on the phone.
Okay. Number one, I don't use my name. Okay, that's number one. Number two, my platform is to do what it does, right? Okay. Is to find influential people, bring them together so they can do what they need to do, right? Which so far in the 5 years, if people actually look at it, has been successful. Now, a lot of people want to come in and make my platform and what we do in the manosphere what they want to make it. You want me to make this? You want me to make this a political platform, right?
No, I listened to what y'all saying, and I just wanted to ask if since y'all bringing up the politics, where can we start to use it to our advantage? By
we already have.
Okay.
We already have. Basically, but in other words, policy is made two places, not only in government, but also starts in the ivory tower, which we call academia, right? Okay. You got to bring academics in to actually start changing the policy from that end, so we can actually start get some momentum. In fact, the fact you already started because black male independence was a non-starter until these things start to happen, till this sector start to mature. Okay, yep. So my platform, L.A. Ramon, is to bring knowledge and bring things out that nobody will ever tell you. Okay, that you won't hear. That's my platform. Okay, that's what it's for.
So is it any way we can all come together offline? Is what I'm asking. I'm not
you can get emails. There's people have names. If you're in the chat, they can drop the emails in the back chat.
I got a nice little audience that y'all might want to let hear your message too. I got a radio show. We do this. I'm not new to it. That's why I'm saying I'm not trying to steal your platform. I'm just trying to add something to the conversation.
Ramon, let me tell you about me, man. I've been doing this. Me and my partner started doing this in 2003. Okay, I did that from 2003 to 2015. Really, I still do it on a regular basis, once a week with my mentor here in Los Angeles. I've been in this game for 30 years, man. If you know what the good
BGS, if I may.
Yes, sir.
L.A. Ramon, you referenced to some sort of organization or some sort of source of funding or whatever. We can't even find that. So, with respect to what you're trying to do, the first step to trying to incite any sort of alliances in this space is presenting some sort of actual valid information in which people can utilize that to use as the basis of some discernment as to how valid what you are and what you have to do will manifest. So I would recommend to you that if you continue to come to this space and you have something to share, something that other people can reference to and benefit from, I think that would encourage people to want to allow other people to ally with you and go forward from there.
Give
So
me
I
some
would
emails.
definitely recommend that if you want to encourage participation of other men here, definitely have some facts in order. That
Give me your
would
email.
definitely.
I'll send you some facts and a link so you can hear some other stuff.
Well,
Just put the email in
the chat is open here, bro. You can put
Yeah,
your,
the private
put
chat.
your email.
Private chat or the public chat.
All right, let me see how I get in it. Okay.
I wanna present a case study, and this isn't a shot to you, LA Ramon, but I want to talk to the talking point that was brought up, or the like to call it in the Magi circle, the alpha mathematics, where you mentioned black folks leaving from Oklahoma for stardom, and adding that there are some black folks that became aldermen and sold people out. That talking point, the alpha mathematics, where you take one or two variables or a few exceptions to the majority of the rule and overemphasize it to try to judo flip it into false accountability for the community or for black people. That is the that is the residual impact that we're talking about as far as collective, as far as that self-hate that we talk about, as far as racism is concerned, where all it takes is just one or two few exceptions to the rule, because obviously this country is a extremely big country. Not everything is going to be completely black and white. Taking that one or two drops of gray area and then overemphasizing it and trying to flip it back and say that this is really on the community and you guys need to do and
you know what, West Coast, what bothers me is when you talk about Maxine Waters and the congressman, they got to run every 2 years, not every 4 years, every 2 years, right? They have to run every 2 years.
Yeah,
you have an opportunity to remove these people every 2 years. I do.
Well,
mean
that's
what
Edward was
That's the
talking
whole
about.
point I'm making up.
That's what Edward meant in terms of primary.
Then it's not. It's not on this. It's not on this. Evidently, they're doing enough for the people that are keep reelecting them every 2 years that they're happy with them, regardless of what they one or two bills that they signed in.
Yeah, because that's the thing. But I hate to say it like this. Hold on, I'm gonna be quick. Because I'm being good today. Maxine Waters doesn't have to give a flying fuck about any black person from Oklahoma. That's not her electorate. And that's one thing that black people kind of fail to understand and I know you know who you sound like you know who's in charge in Oklahoma. And shout out to Kevin Samuels is out of Tulsa. So I mean, it's black people in Oklahoma don't get highlighted enough. There's more black people out there what people think. I'm always interested in these areas where people don't think black people are there, but they are there. But with that being said, same thing with Conyers in what was it, Detroit? These people, they don't have to they only have to worry about the people that are actually in their electorate. And this is why when we have these conversations on a bigger scale, you have to kind of say something that everybody kind of can do, which is basically primary they ask, because you have to make the case as a collective body. And I don't see that case being made. What I'm hearing from you is really the same shit they would be saying, which is basically get up under black women and basically, or
you don't hear me saying nothing like that,
because they're already kicking ass.
Let him finish.
Black women are kicking ass and taking names, and the program that and I get it. Look, I'm assuming it exists. It exists. Get up under them and do that to build wealth, and then we'll wonder down the road why they don't respect this. And as soon as they flip that shit, they turn on us, because at the end of the day, we shouldn't need them in order to build our own power. Because that's not really us leading. That's us following them just in another name. And in the fact, I mean, here's the thing. We could basically, black women buy weave. Why don't black men basically get into the weave industry?
In fact, my mentors, they already are. In fact, because a lot of the Asians are actually selling it out, and they have this huge collective that led by two black men that are actually getting into the hair and weave business as we speak.
That's good.
So what's the power? Well, the power is we're financing the money. They want a place to get it where they won't get their ass beat and they'll get a better price. And then, they don't got to worry about where it comes from, because we'll deal with the agents when it comes to the negotiation, whatever. So I'm not averse to those types of arrangements, but a situation where it's kind of like, I just don't like that, and I don't like Ben Carson either, because Ben Carson is known to put some bullshit like that together. But set it up. Even though he's a conservative,
he put it together because in other words, if you look at what especially what Trump does and what this administration does, they'll take it from one end and they'll give it back to you on another.
Yeah.
Okay. They're gonna scale down Section 8 and or the Section 8 vouchers and stuff like that. So basically, unless you want a mess, you got to give them another plan to actually do it. Bill Clinton did it with
and BGS. We talk about this in this space a lot. You know, you got all these black women that have boys. Why isn't that they advocate for their boys that will turn into men and quite frankly be able to deal with them later on in life? You don't hear that. So everything is always started from the women. We need to deal, and I'm not saying you meant to do it this way. This is just what it is out here. We have to go up under the women, and then we have to hope that the women will do the right thing, even though female nature dictates that won't happen. Not because they're bad, but because that's how, even with white women, that's not necessarily the case. So that's the issue I have. Fundamentally, just that plan is not sustainable. It's other things that are better if we're gonna do the work with each other again thing. That's all I'm saying.
And basically, if you talked about opportunity zones and stuff like that, it's going to vary from location to location, because you got to have buy-in from not only from your state but also your local government. They have to basically approve it before any money's going to even be passed out. So it's a little bit more involved than you're actually claiming. So in Colorado Springs, it might be a little bit simpler, but it's in places like Chicago, LA, Atlanta, places like that, it'll be a little bit more complex.
Say,
you know what?
Can I respond to him, please?
Go ahead.
Now, I ain't got no problem with nothing you said, other than the part about me self-hating. I don't know if you're referring to me.
Who are you responding to?
The brother that was just talking.
Me?
And I
it must have been West Coast.
He's talking.
I ain't say nothing about self-hate.
Oh, you got 5 other people on the panel. We don't know who the hell.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We respond to both of us. I mean,
it
pretty
kills
lengthy.
time. Well,
anyway, we're gonna give this like 5 more minutes. We're actually gonna go on to something else, man.
All I was gonna say is, look, man, I wouldn't even be in this space if I didn't share the same thinking. Okay. I don't be simping. Okay, and believe me, I definitely don't do stuff like that. When I talk about putting collectiveness together, it is for that purpose. But if you guys have been convinced that it doesn't have any purpose,
we don't have to sell you.
Okay, let me respond.
I'm willing to sell you.
We haven't seen it. You're a businessman, man, right? You're a businessman.
Yes, I am.
Okay, would you ride with something you haven't seen?
No.
Okay, we haven't seen it. That's all we're saying.
I agree with y'all, but I also agree in businesmen too. Don't businessmen make things happen?
Would you ride with anything that you have not seen?
No, I just
then that's all we're saying. Because we asked you what it was, where it was, so we can look at it. That's all we asked.
I'm getting it for you guys now. I asked somebody to put something in the chat for me. I don't know if I got a response.
And
I was going to email it, and you guys can put it out.
You were going to drop your email in the private
chat. You have a private chat.
We have a private chat.
So, LA Ramon, I'll respond to you. LA Ramon, I'll respond to you because, again, I wanted to reiterate that was a case study example and it wasn't a direct shot to you and your talking points, because that's what I prefaced my statement with. All right, cool.
Thank you for the clarification.
Because you got to remember what happens in the 70s when black women were actually considered a double minority. What happened to black men?
They got dumped.
They got dumped.
They got divorced.
So
they got child supported.
So don't blame us if we're a little skittish when you say making black women triple minorities. You have to
I get it.
Triple double, baby. Triple double.
I got a question. I got a question for everybody real quick.
You know where you lost? Hold on a second. You know where you lost, niggas? You know where you lost?
That's right. That triple minority.
He put it in. We see he had to go to black women to get something.
Yeah, I mean, you say, man, you say you
went to hell right.
You know where you are.
You listen to this space.
You know where you are. Okay.
But I would say this too. Here's the truth. Who stands to benefit from a community being stable and vibrant? Black women stand to benefit a hell of a lot more. Let's keep it real. No matter what we do, and I'm cool with this, but no matter what we do, Black men are going to have to invest a hell of a lot more than what we get out as a collective group. And see, the problem is, and I know you didn't bring up the women, but our women never understand that. And you can tell because they only come to us when it's like when it's an emergency where shit is like rapidly like free falling like the Dow Jones. That's what they want to bring. And it's the same thing like the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party didn't start, Roland Martin start, man, what about black men? I'm like, nigga, your whole career you ain't said shit about black men, but now you want to sound the alarm because that's why I wish DC was still here, man. You know, these next 3 weeks they looking so good.
That's only because he's representing for everybody who got breasts like him.
Oh yeah, that's true.
What about black men?
But for me, what I've observed is they do know Edward, and to a certain extent, they want what they want from us, because we've seen case studies and examples of this is they want us to they want to exist in a superposition where they can simultaneously blame, criticize, and manage and oversee the masculinity of black men, while at the same time reaping the benefits and the actual privileges of it. And that's the whole break and friction in it, because they've tasted blood. They've tasted the power that comes with actually having lordship and ownership in an artificial manner. Now it's about managing the property and ownership in the sense that you have and being able to keep it in control.
Yeah, and West Coast, the burden is not. Here's the thing: as a black, and I understand how BGS, how you feel about individualism. I believe more in being interdependent, but let's be clear here. As an individual, the burden is on the insurance company that is the black community to basically present a plan that everybody can buy into. The burden is not, because let's be clear here, black men ain't really got nothing to lose. When you look at everybody that has things to lose, whether it's in the Democratic Party or in this American society in general, black men have the least to lose because we're at the bottom. So quite frankly, we have the least amount of reason to actually put all this investment. Well, what about you? So what it comes down to is always come down to, well, what about your pride? What about your pride as a man in the community? Well, no, I can just focus on my pride as an individual. And when I say an individual, I'm talking about, how my mom is living, how my brothers are living, how maybe the people that come in personal contact with me that are black are living.
That's the wrong way to answer that question. What I would have said was, no, you could have 25% of my pride because the other 75 I just don't have.
You know what? At this point, we need to go to the leaders of the community, which we all know who actually owns and has ownership of the community, and ask them, what are you willing to do to bring us back to the table? And stop trying to
go on that damn radio show and say, so who's the leader of the black community? Is it black women or black men? And then blow that whole shit up, make the case. Look at all these mayors, police commissioners, shit. The only thing they got is the lawyers, shit. Well, you niggas, we have to do it. Okay.
Like, there's no point. There's no more point of beating around the bush. It's like you have all of these shaming and talking points where you just, you need to do this, you need to do that. You sound like you have some type of ownership over us to talk to me any type of way. And clearly that one method isn't working. So let me ask you, what are you willing to do to alpha your way through it and bring me back to the table?
That's the new hashtag, alpha your way through it.
Hey, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to bring me back? That's what that boils down to. You can hit me with the as a man and all this other stuff. It's like, you can't speak for me as a man, just like I can't speak for you as a woman. You want something from me. What is it that you're willing to sacrifice?
Yo, who needs to write that book? How to alpha your way through it by who? For black women.
Alpha your way through it for black women. That's what they need to do.
That title will sell some fucking books.
Yeah, you need to figure it out. You need to
maintain your frame.
Right. Yeah. Take full responsibility at this point. That's all we asking for. Like,
you really think they got a managed community? Some motherfuckers can't even manage that way.
I mean, they doing it now. Their argument is just shaming. So we giving you a pro tip. Like, hey, this ain't gonna work. I'm not going for it.
In order to change somebody, you must have pride first.
Yeah, the closest thing I found is the family self-sufficiency program, where they give you vouchers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm digging into it now, yes, because it's been a while. Okay, so let me because I'm pulling it up now. That's what I'm getting.
And another thing that happens too in this space.
If you have to go find it, then you know that it's not readily
well, and another thing.
It's been a minute since they did this.
No, and you find we already got panels and stuff. We'll share it.
Let me just give y'all the list now. Since I don't want you to have to go through all.
Nah, take your time, LA Ramon. Let it be complete.
But don't give us any bad information.
But another thing, and even
hold on, Edward, hold on. Go ahead, read it to us.
I'm not finna read it. This is 40 pages.
The Lakers
I said I'm gonna send it to y'all.
Just put the link in the private chat.
Hey Siri,
you know you cussing.
Just said I'm about to do that.
Say read.
Lakers game.
So we can read it.
Oh, yo, these niggas got hope. All right.
You know that's a cuss word.
Hey, yo, shout out to Chicago. Tom Brady, God basically
that's what we really talking about.
Brady
Chicago,
with a Freudian slip. Goes like,
read. Oh shit!
I was like, if I would have had money on that game, I would be like, yeah, I will be going to church going forward, man.
I think Brady had his Willie Mays with the Mets moment last.
He had his Steve Nash moment. You paid $50 million for this, $25 million. Anyway, Brady doing good. But anyway, but yeah, man, and I love it. I love when people outside of the manosphere comes in. And I mean it. I'm not being sarcastic.
He's been around.
Well, what I'm saying is because you'll have a lot of people that, and I mean it when I say engage, because you'll have a lot of people that will they see themselves outside of it, but they'll talk around it without actually coming in. And when I say engage, I mean, let's say somebody is like a really big rig dude. Let's say, okay, fuck me. I'm just 3,500. But you got people like, Dr. T.S. Johnson, Tommy Curry, BGS. You got folks that's like, okay, you want to have academic conversation. There's different angles. If you want to only talk to dudes that quote unquote live life, like they got kids or whatever, then there's people for that. If you only want to talk to dudes that like their economics is like out of this world, like we have something for everything in the manosphere, depending on how people want to engage in it. Because oftentimes people will say, okay, well, we're not solution oriented, but the issue is not so much that we're not solution oriented, it's that what we want to do, nobody wants to do. I keep saying this, and it sounds nerdy as hell, but I'm gonna keep saying it. Avengers: Age of Ultron said people want the community to improve, but they don't want it to change. And everybody's trying to find ways to make shit better within the same frame of what already exists. And the problem is, what exists needs to be broken down at a cultural level in the Black community.
And Mike Tyson said everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And sometimes the difference between being just an observer and coming on one of these panels is the difference between having a plan and coming on the panel and getting punched in the mouth.
So who did I get the punch again? Oh,
and especially on a BGS panel.
I saw that video with Mike Tyson, man. Even today,
I'm getting ready to go ham in this chat if y'all don't chill out, man. Just because I have a live stream don't mean y'all can come up and start peeing on my floor, all right? So y'all chill out. Because I'm getting ready to.
They think you're distracted.
I'm getting ready to actually enact martial law on my chat if you guys don't chill out. Okay.
That sounds like something from the Bulldogs.
Man, I don't do this often, so you guys can actually chill. That doesn't mean you can come in. If you guys really got something to say that's strong, basically the link is in the chat. Bring your ass up here and get to work, right? LA Ramon got up here. Well, he got a little work, but the thing is, we weren't disrespectful, okay?
Yeah, that's that pent up angst, BGS, from you.
Yeah, because BGS is somebody where they need a weekly ritual sacrifice.
We talk about babysitters and fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here, Rock.
And I love it.
Do you know how much it bothers when the BGS kind of fell back? Like, God, this nigga, I need to get this nigga.
Every time he comes up on chat, my precious.
Yo, he ain't put out a dark news in a minute, man. I'm getting withdrawal.
I got stuff for your ass, but we talking about this stuff, man, and we don't even know what the United States is gonna look like come January, man. We
really don't. And it may be before January. It may be before January.
That's what I'm BGS. That's what I'm saying, like, bro. Like, I think that DC actually touched on this point where people want to battle the enemy that they know and not the enemy that, speak of the devil, came back from the outer rim.
Outer rim.
So look,
Wait a minute.
you know what I'm saying?
He never left. He got ran back by imperial man.
Because
He got
done with that workout, man. You know,
had to come back to the secret asteroid, man.
Yeah, I want DC. I want you to expound upon that because I mean we see this in the chat or we see this in the sphere where people have grown accustomed to attacking basically it's like somebody, if we use an analogy of somebody having a schoolyard bully that's bullying them, and then like a nerd is laughing on the side, they're gonna go and try to beat up the nerd versus face the actual bully, which is the people who have put us in this predicament in the condition that we're in. And on top of that, to BGS's point of the environment that we're in the wider scope of that, we haven't as a sphere have had the opportunity to delve into these particular topics to prepare ourselves because we've grown so accustomed to just battling within our own selves, because again that's a residual impact of the training and the generational systemic racism that we face, and all we know is just the black man in front of us to attack and coming up with creative ways to keep on keeping that cycle going instead of looking beyond that. And at this point, it's going to be to our detriment if we don't.
Yeah, a lot of wind. So
that's Charles. Mute yourself,
Charles, man. Mute that Baltimore noise up out of here. Man. Get that out of here, man. Get that out of here.
Oh, here you go.
We will have no local. We will have no local.
I heard some goddamn pink socks being worn.
All right. You came up here for a reason.
You gotta stay warm. Yeah, man. It's real simple, man. Real simple. The thing is that people that get into these conversations, man, they love to pick on easy targets. That's what I call it. If you have a situation where you're dealing in discourse, right? And then I asked BGS this, and I to be honest with you, that's why I like to stay, in my lane and out of rim. I don't like getting into these conversations because I know they're going to be contentious because I'm going to ask the other question. And see, when we get down to it, you can't answer it. Just like the brother that just got in trouble with the whole, I guess trying to, well, we all just, we just need to just kind of like just work through it, make money. And then all of a sudden, the upper management is going to pull up everybody else and then everybody else is going to follow. That's not what we up against. Mm-hmm. See, when you think about a whole system that's been put into place and you're listening to somebody that's part of the migration from the South. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that wasn't talked about was the terrorism that was experienced. And if I'm not mistaken, I know that happened in Oklahoma. Both in Tulsa and both in Oklahoma City, they have a history of it.
They're still digging up bodies in Tulsa.
My wife's grandmother was run off. Her family was run off a farm in Arkansas. People were being lynched down there in the 20s and 30s and whatever. So I mean, this whole notion of black people leaving good, productive land and just going into the north without any jobs or that's just not historically accurate.
A lot of different communities.
And this is where reading is important because it's documented. We have to be able to trace and figure out the reasons why people are where they are.
The white man's books.
No. These are books written by black people. I got you. But Isabel Wilkerson, the one about other sons, that talks about the migration. I mean, BGS, you're on here. You are a son of the migration movement.
I know.
You are one of the kids that moved, and you're explaining it to them. And
I'm a son of the migration movement. I was born in the Mississippi Delta.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, y'all. With alpha mathematics, all they do is focus on the soft target in order to erase all of that history that's being presented.
I really don't care.
Go ahead.
I really don't care that about what people say, but the thing is, you're gonna thump your chest. You know, I said, back that shit up, man. Come on, man. This stuff has been documented from left, right, from Tuesday. You have films where people got ran out and lynched and stuff like that. You tell me that this stuff didn't happen, like your experience. I'm not saying that your experience wasn't unique. It might have been, but the vast majority of black people, it wasn't that way. To actually, you shit on other people by even saying that what we did. That's bullshit, man. Come on.
Look, there were black people effectively under enslavement sharecropping programs where they would leave in the dead of night in order to escape to the north. They were not leaving situations where they had some comfortable ownership of land and they just decided, oh, we're just going to leave this here to the white people and go up to New York or Chicago. They were effectively under enslavement program.
And it's to me, when the disrespect gets to a certain level, and then when you push back, we're not pushing back on your ideals. What we're doing is we're trying to point you into a direction where, okay, we know that this has been tried, but don't think less of the people that was before you, that was full of economists, full of teachers, full of educators. You got to remember, during Reconstruction, we built ourselves from the ground up out of slavery. We are a very capable people. But how does that fire get extinguished? See, that's the thing, you know, like I use this trope, you know, it's a TV show, but Good Times tells the story. You know, James was a hard worker. James was from the Mississippi Delta too. He was part of the whole migration thing. They moved up there because they felt like they had a better opportunity. But what they found out was that in the ghettos of Chicago, the racism that was basically back home was still sophisticated as it was still keeping them down in the ghettos of Chicago, doing redlining and all of that. And then with the kids that they had smart children. All of them were capable. These were not ghetto kids. They had both a mother and a father. They did not want to do what James did. They did not want to do blue collar work. None of them. Did you notice that? JJ didn't want to do it. Michael didn't want to do it. You feel me? Feel what I'm saying? Like, you know, is a whole different deal. That's that whole black woman deal. But what I'm saying to you is that this is something, man, that has been basically, it's been written down. You can look at the history. There shouldn't be an argument about this thing. And that's why I don't understand, like, when we have an arguments about what has already taken place and the record, I don't understand how we can possibly move forward, because to get to the ideas that we need to get to, you need to get to the point where we can disagree, because I'm gonna tell you, that's the next level, because, you know, it's not going to be about the brother that's going to be agreeing, which is going to be about that brother that makes the same amount of money that you make, but y'all have two totally opposite ideologies, and can y'all come together and make things work? Now, we have seen it go back in history. We've seen it with W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, whatever the case may be. Their ideologies and they splinter the group of black people, and we went our own directions. You know, that's just been the history of it. But I mean, if we're to move forward, we got to learn how to be able to disagree and then to move forward for a common cause. If I care about black people, then that should be, well, forget that. If I care about black men, right, primarily, if that is my focus, then we should be able to get together. Whether I vote for Biden or you vote for Trump, we should be able to get together on some common things and be like, you know what, we need to still take care of these boys. We need to still get them educated. So regardless of who's in office, we need to go ahead and build something together to where we can move forward, if you're going to do it within the box of what we're talking about in the system. Now, if you're talking about outside the system, then that's something that needs to be left to the outer rim. I'll hold on that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the only thing I'll add to that is the only issue that I have with ideology is not about two productive people. You have people that are trying to say, let's go in there and help these boys because I fucked up. And basically I want somebody to play welfare just by calling another name, because that's when they only show up. And then here's the thing. Even if I say, okay, I'm going to give you that, then what price somebody willing to pay for that? Because if MOT used to talk about this when he did create, he was involved with nonprofits that would help black boys. Soon as you start doing some shit that for instance, just to go on your example, that the women don't want, what do they start doing? They start getting the funding pool. They start pulling aids and fucking it up. Because at the end of the day, they weren't willing to pay the price of basically submitting to whatever that situation was, to the point where it wasn't. They wanted to actually get the stuff eliminated. This is the issue with the My Brother's Keeper thing with Obama, the one thing Obama did try to do. So the problem is, it is how people come to the table and their ultimate intentions. And when you get into the devil in the details, that stuff gets shown up. And that's why a lot of times we like to stick to this over emotionalism and stuff, and we never get to brass tacks. When you get to brass tacks, you start to realize what people really want. And then, people will I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but people will try to frame that. And this goes on both sides, by the way. The same thing with the quote unquote hood conservatives, where like what West Coast said, they take their personal shit and they try to broadcast it like your personal shit is your personal shit, and they try to make it like it's a thing that needs to be blanketed with everybody, to the point where if you say even catchphrase, like if I were to say I'm pro-black, all of a sudden all this shit gets thrown at me. And you don't even know who the fuck I am. You haven't even heard me say anything because you get triggered.
Edward, they're pro-black too. That's a smokescreen. That's a false narrative. I mean, they're talking on black issues just like you are. They just have a different idea of what they deem the solution to be. So I don't even pay that no attention. If they wouldn't be here if they didn't care about black issues. It's proven that
so
if
what
they're in the so-called black manosphere, that they actually have some form of being pro-black, or basically being for black people. That's just false.
So I've learned to give things words to what I'm talking about. So what do you think about the idea of people that try to use the term pro-black, but in actuality, what they're really doing is sexual politicking?
Well, they don't want to get pushed back on. That's what I'm saying. They know who to say that to. See, that's what I'm saying. Saying it to me, that's why I don't get into these conversations with these brothers, because like I said,
you just gonna tell them to go read.
No, I'm not gonna just tell them to go read. I'm gonna walk them through their logic. Yeah, I'm gonna walk them through their logic. I mean, what are you talking about? Are you in the black manosphere? No, I'm just saying, you in the black manosphere, correct? Yes. We're talking about black men, correct? Yes. But if you're talking about black men, then you're talking about by proxy what's good for black people. If you are the leaders of the so-called community, if you want to be the leaders of the so-called community, you just want people to do it your way. So just say that. Just say my way is better than your way. And here's why.
Somebody that believes. So I got a question for you. Didn't Green Gorilla do this? Can you be pro-black but be anti-black male, and vice versa?
Yes.
You believe?
Yes.
So?
Yes.
Do you all agree with that shit? I'm asking. I don't know.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
Here's how. Here's how.
All right. Well, let him answer it. You guys go and let him answer it.
Let me tell you how, Ed. Because at the very same vein, they think that there's something wrong with my type of thinking, right? So they'll put me so-called in the liberal box, right? Because I don't curtail to that type of thinking. I don't think that's the way they're actually getting things done. So they're going to think that I'm basically hampering the community. Mm-hmm. But then they're going to call me, basically, they're going to limit that and say that I'm pro-black. But see, I give it up because I understand what the idea is. They're just saying my ideas, my thought pattern is better than yours. I believe this is how we move forward. If you listen to them very succinctly, they're telling you, I have the answers to the community. I know what is right. I know what we need to do because niggas do this. See, that's what I'm talking about, trying to build this false hierarchy when you ain't dealt with the real problem yet, right? Mm-hmm. So you're trying to build this hierarchy within the group and you're trying to subjugate those that's beneath you in your mind, right? So instead of looking at the whole community as one big nigga, they say, no, I'm not them niggas over there. I'm this type of black person. I'm different. You'll hear things like that. So no, those brothers are so-called a portion of a pro-black conglomerate. They have a thought pattern. It's the same thing as Booker T. Washington being pro-black. He was pro-black too. But then you got a certain portion of the black community that would say that Booker T. Washington was a sellout. He was compromised. He was a bootlicking
So you're still
Negro.
talking about in the confines of the conservative and liberal thing.
I'm talking about reality. No, I'm not even bringing that up. I'm talking about people's specific thought pattern, no matter what it is.
I'm talking about intersectionality.
I'm saying it doesn't matter, Edward. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If they're in a black space, they have a form of being pro-black. They are not opting out. Now, if you asked me something about like ABL, but even I look at even somebody like an ABL or somebody is still doing that because he still brings up Chicago and black conservatives. Yeah, they're patterning that to make their point. That's what I'm saying. So
you have a very expansive idea with pro-black.
Yeah. No. Everything you brought up is in the context of conservatives.
BGS, I'm not saying that they're conscious, right? I wouldn't put them into the conscious category. Would I say that they are actually pro-black? I would say yes, because they're believing what they're doing is the best for black people. They believe that.
You believe, so it sounds like if they black,
they wouldn't
believe that.
They wouldn't even say they're pro-black.
Yeah, and by the way, ABL has like
ABL
has like a 90% white audience.
He's saying
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
What would saying you're pro-black? You call a man by what?
Say what now?
You call a man by what?
Yeah, you call a man by the name you want to be called.
Yeah, exactly. They're not pro-black. They say they're not pro-black.
But BGS,
well, BGS.
I'm a coon. No, you're really pro-black. You're not conscious.
Yes, sir.
Let me say this.
There are conservative types who would never claim the quote pro-black moniker,
right?
But they would definitely assert that what they're advocating is for the benefit of black people.
Okay.
Which makes them inherently pro-black.
They would never use the moniker pro-black.
Well, to read the point, because this keeps coming back. Like, black women are not conservative for the most part.
No.
So, and we're talking about black people. So we're not just talking about black men. So intersectionality is a liberal concept, not a conservative one. So when I say anti-black male, I'm really speaking to the gynocratic culture that has permeated the black community, mainly the liberal side, and under the guise of being pro-black. And again, when I say sexual politics, I'm almost done. When I say sexual politics, what I'm specifically meaning is I'm saying, because for instance, this is how you can easily bring it up. Can you be pro-black and sleep white? Most black people say no. I say yes. Because I look at being pro-black as more of seeing black people as more of a community corporation that can be invested in, and your seed and all that is not. That's a important investment, but that's not the only investment. But most black people don't believe that, even though you have plenty of examples of people that they had black kids and then just fuck white women. Didn't even have interracial kids, but it's still seen where your dick is associated with how pro-black you are.
But Edward,
go ahead, Rue.
To a certain, a fairly, I believe, healthy percentage of pro-black types include within that apparatus a high degree of self-sacrifice by black men. That to be pro-black, as a black man in particular, you must be willing to invest and sacrifice a great deal. That your manhood itself is defined by that level and degree of sacrifice,
financial accomplishments, all that. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. It's not that I disagree with you, Edward, but
I disagree.
But in their definition, includes you being John Henry. Their definition includes you being John Henry.
Well, this is where getting to what people mean.
I can prove it. I can prove it. 9 times out of 10, right? Most of these brothers that we're talking about, whether it's hood conservative, any of the cohorts that believe
you love these conservatives.
No.
He's using multiple.
No. I'm using archetype.
Yeah.
Everything that they're talking about has to do with black people, black men in particular. You are in the so-called black manosphere, which focuses on what? Black men's issues in the environment that we live in. The disagreement is what they say liberal, right? They're pushing liberal thought pattern to being pro-black. I think that's a limited view of what pro-blackness is. There is a conservative wing of pro-blackness. There is a liberal wing or a middle ground for pro-blackness. It always has been. The black community is a conglomerate of ideas of how to move forward. It is broken down by region, parts of the actual diaspora that you come from, or whether you come from the continent. However you get to this particular definition of what you call blackness has something to do with what your idea of what your thought pattern is going to be on how to move forward. If you ask a black person, to a man, to a woman, they're going to have some kind of idea of what to do and what black people as a whole should do, literally. And nobody else has that kind of mentality. That is something that is very, very unique to us. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to argue the point or belabor the point because, like I say, pro-blackness is used as a cuss word. So yeah, use me. I'm your huckleberry. Come to the outer rim anytime. I welcome it. And you've been there, Edward. I'm respectful.
What I'm saying is
there is
hold
nobody in this.
Hold on.
We don't know when we're gonna get a code breaker sighting. It's almost like looking for Haley's comment. Haley's comment is more on time than the code breaker sighting.
When it comes across, man, all are welcome.
When it
all
comes,
are welcome over there.
Everybody
I want all the smoke.
Trying to estimate arrival times when you jump out of hyper speed, man, it's kind of difficult.
But this is
go ahead, West Coast, go ahead.
Yeah, so to DC's point, essentially the pie is the pie as far as you being pro-black. All of these intersections and all these subsects is inconsequential. If the baseline of your interests aligns with you being in a black space or supporting black people or black men, whatever side of the aisle it is, it still falls under that guise of being pro-black. The way that I would connect it in regards to politics on a bigger scale, if pro-black, where in Edward's example, how a certain subgroup only sees pro-black being you only marrying black, that can be the equivalent of an alt-right conservative on the conservative end.
Absolutely.
Are all conservatives extremists? No, you have moderates, you have those who are more on the Puritan. You have different versions of conservative. You have different versions of liberal. But at the end of the day, both sides of the aisle have a common interest. As much as we've seen the shit show that was the political debates between the VPs and the president candidates, their bottom line or their interest is to do what? Run the country. And so using that same model or following that same logic, whether somebody's coming from the intersectional camp, somebody coming from the B1 camp, SYSBM, all of these other little subsects is inconsequential. At the bottom line, your interest lies with the protection or the cultivation of a black individual within said society, which makes you inherently pro-black. And to the bigger point, if we don't come together strategically, just like how the conservatives and liberals come to an informed decision on how the country makes a decision, then this shit will fall apart. And you're seeing an example of it in real time about this whole stimulus set. Is the smaller scale is when everybody's like, oh, we just need to focus on intersectional, we need to focus on pro-black and all this other bullshit, not knowing that the whole society is crumbling in front of you. And everybody's taking all of your piece of the pie for the sake of you trying to champion this ideology. And this ideology, shout out to the residual impact of cultural racism. Everybody wants to focus on this hierarchy within this subculture when you're not afforded that benefit because you're a subculture of American society. And it behooves you to figure out what the common interests are and base it off of interest instead of feelings or sexual politicking or whatever other subversive method to get shit pushed. Just like what BGS was saying about ADOS. It doesn't matter what the flag is. Just get the shit pushed in order for the actual policies to be enforced, so then we can have something to hang our hat on. And then you break into your sub camps about why intersectionality or pro-black are better than one another.
And you know what? The problem with that is you have more increasing groups that are basically saying that on what you just said, they rather see the whole shit burn. Yep. Because the reality is they are not, like I've said it straight up. When it comes to this gynocracy shit, nothing's moving until that gets addressed. And if that means that the whole shit just gets liquidated, then that's what it means. And you see that in a lot of black men that'll vote for Trump. That's how they feel. And the truth is the way you address, and you see it even with the Zillennials as far as them hopping out. We're just all the same, so we just need to come together. Shit, the stuff doesn't work that way. The way what BGS, you've said it. What is happening? You either got to force people to come together, you either have to buy people off, or what's the third? I forgot the third one.
Yeah, persuade them.
Yeah, persuade them. What you basically saying is basically some Rodney King, can't we all just get along because of reasons type shit? And you're dealing, and that could work. But you're dealing with human from a marketing perspective.
Who's saying that?
From the marketing perspective, the way you do it is you have to create an enemy that is strong enough in the minds of everybody else that all those preceding groups hate. That is how you actually generally bring humans together the way you all are trying to do it. But absence of something, white supremacy is actually not strong enough, because you have Negroes out here that will tell you in your fucking face, white supremacy is a figment of your fucking
Well,
management.
that proves the strength of it, not the weakness of it. But
it doesn't matter
let me say this because I don't want this to be construed or confused. I have recognized the separation. I have never, and BGS can attest to this, I have never said that everybody was going to come together. I'm not even on that. Am I on that, BGS?
No.
Am I on that? Is that what I say? We need to all come together, kumbaya, hold hands, and agree.
We know that because that's not possible. So
that's not possible. I have my whole argument is, can you work alongside with people you disagree with? West Coast just said it.
I think the question, DC, is you
hold
have to ask,
hold on. Let me finish real quick, please, because I don't come up on these panels enough to and I don't want my words to be remixed or construed.
Okay.
What I'm saying is this: if you have an idea about the community, right, and we have a polarizing idea about the community on how to move forward, how can we, even if we are basically trying to get something done, right? How can we get something done even though we have those contrasting ideas? That is a question. I'm not saying that, hey, you got to come together. I'm not talking about that, because that's not a possibility. People don't even agree on what black is. So I don't have those illusions of basically having a big black collective black meeting. No, that's not what I'm on. So I just want to be clear. I just want to be clear, because that's what you guys are asking for. That's what you're asking for.
I would say to address
reparations prove that's not going to happen. Because, like, for instance, if the real answer to that is it depends, because it's all on a spectrum. So there's certain people that certain other people can work with. For instance, black women can work with gays because they have a collective understanding of basically keeping the black man fucked over so they can do what the fuck they do. But if you ask me, I can work with black women, but can I work with on business? But can I work with black women that from a social political sense that have intersectionality issues and believe that black men should be basically should be up under them? No. So that just depends. And what happens is white supremacy will pick the groups that benefits them, and they will elevate those groups as you see it. And you're seeing a lot of folks rebel against that. So that answer is always a case by case basis. But this idea, most black people are basically gynocratic. So the reality, but here's the trick: a lot of the black men they actually need are not. So, and then the future is actually wholesale getting away from black, because they see that the culture is the problem, and they associate black women with the culture they want to rebel against. So what they're doing is they're just wholesale throwing out the baby with the bathwater. They don't hear shit nobody else is saying. They give no fucks about what else is saying. They're coming to that conclusion on their own. So the reality is the majority, I'm almost done. The majority that actually needs to actually create a social contract that will require them giving up some shit. They don't want to give up some shit because ultimately they don't want to change, which also spurs a lot of people saying, fuck it. So the answer really ultimately is no. They're not going to.
I mean, we saw an example of that even on this panel where, what was the brother's name who was here? L.A. Ramon. He came up here and he presented an idea, but it had a very gynocentric element to it. And the brothers immediately responded to that, because we could all kind of project the inevitable course and direction in which things will go, where you must rely upon a black woman to be sort of the stated authority in some sort of business arrangement with the government. It is fairly predictable where things will go in most cases. And because we're here in this environment, in large part because we're against the gynocracy, our rightful knee-jerk response would be to reject that wholesale. and rightfully so.
I'm just focused on black men at this point. I'm not even talking about the women at this juncture. I'm just talking about the differences that we have with
but we had a black man who came here and presented this to us. So it's not even just a matter. I'm saying, let me finish. It's not just a matter of us versus black women. You know, that's easy to identify. The issue is when brothers come before us and they themselves are presenting gynocratic designs. And now our initial desire would likely be to work with that brother. But if the way of doing that requires that we submit to some sort of gynocratic formula, then that creates an inherent conflict in the decision-making process. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I do agree with that.
Let me add.
He wanted to respond to something.
No. I'm gonna leave it there because I don't want to get too close to the ledge. I'm gonna leave it. I'm already teetering.
I mean, it actually ain't. I mean, we're just basically analyzing what you're saying.
Yeah.
Trust me, we've been in nigga shit enough to know where we're not. We almost got there with what's it called, because I'm gonna tell you something. The first thing that I picked up on what he said was he kept saying y'all. So basically, that's that I'm not really in the manosphere, but I'm gonna project how y'all act. Second thing, well, you know how I feel about niggas with only daughters. You know what I always say. You can't trust.
Okay, I only have
daughters. With only daughters. Well, you know, there's exceptions to the rule, but generally, I do stand by. You gotta side eye black men that only have daughters, unless they demonstrate that they understand. And you can see what he was saying.
We say that with dudes who are white women too. You got to side eye until they prove themselves. But
So you know, because sometimes we always look for a black man that was a white woman. We automatically gonna get a side eye, but there's other stuff too you gotta look at. But the thing about it is when he brought that up, you know, Black Hoover, you even asked him as a man with daughters. That's actually important. You asked him, you know, how would he actually have the power dynamic, and what did he say? He said his daughters. So I know that. But see,
I would not my own self enter into some sort of business arrangement fronting my daughters with it. That's kind of ridiculous to me.
But that tells me that he recognized basically what we were saying in the power dynamic outside of that. So he kind of created that on the fly. And that's kind of like the thing that was, you know, and it's not us trying to just say we're smarter and dismiss his idea. But the thing is, there's a lot of things that is not considered. First of all, the Oklahoma thing too. Everybody ain't from Oklahoma. We're all from different parts of the United States. I mean, DC, you're in DC, which, you know, what you call it said is a whole bunch of different Africans there. So a lot of what you're saying, I can understand resonates because you're dealing in an area where you're dealing with a lot of intercultural stuff as well as socio-political stuff. So I get what you're saying. And yes, but I said the same thing that I'm saying to your stuff. I said that on Green Gorillas when it comes to talk about Pan-Africanism. I said most black people are not against Pan-Africanism, but we have to start getting into the details as to what is the benefit, which is what you said, to be fair, and working together on what the objectives are in it of itself. And oftentimes we never get to that because it becomes this fly. Well, what do you think about Pan-Africanism as a concept? Then I asked the same dude. I said, not Green Gorilla, but the dude that was on the African. I said, so explain to me how African Americans benefit from Pan-Africanism. He said, I can't speak for African Americans because I'm not one. I said, really? I said, okay, let me give you an example then. You talked about Hollywood. Okay, there's Black Hollywood and there's Nollywood. You all have the productions, you all have the land, you all have the Nigerian oil money behind it. We have the technology. We also have the market. So you see, I don't have to be Nigerian to understand the back and forth benefits. And that's the point. If you want something from another group, because let's be clear here, they want more from us than we want from them. Most black people are indifferent to the diaspora in that way. You need to at least understand what the other person wants.
Shorten it up.
What do you say about Kuru?
That's because we're foolish, by the way.
Okay, I'll give you that. But the point is, even when I ask about citizenship, motherfuckers don't know what to say, you know, when it comes to that. So I'm like, so my point that I told him, because I ended it on a good note, I said, you have to speak to, you got to speak to where people are and how people get immediate, not immediate, but see a benefit, at least in their mind. You can't just talk about overall arching concept and then think the concept alone is going to carry weight and then not be prepared when somebody tries to challenge the concept in good faith. Because the difference between people just on some bullshit is be on it. But a lot of people have legit questions they're asking that people just don't have answers for. And they just say, well, the real problem is white supremacy and you just don't see it as a big enough threat. Well, shit, I've heard BGS say white supremacy is declining. So
here's what I observed. Here's what I observed, at least with the interaction with L.A. Ramon. That was a perfect example of collaboration and not coming together. I think that that'll be the solution moving forward, where, to DC's point, right? How can we all collaborate in the collective self-interest of Black men and putting our differences aside? That was an example of it with the L.A. Ramon brother, and calling out his BS talking points, walking him through his logic, him having a particular article or document that he's presenting to the panel saying like, hey, this is a potential opportunity. That was in him, and giving him the space to look up said document, fact checking him just like any other business. This was an example of that in real time, where the residual effects of getting into personal sensibilities about people's daughters and how people feel about ADOS, all of that was swept to the side. And the main focus was, hey, brother, you said you had this bill here. Okay, little gynocratic talking points. Let that shit fly. And here's the reason why. And he's like, okay, cool. Let me pull up this article. Let's collaborate. That's a perfect example of collaboration, because regardless of what he does at the end of the day is inconsequential. But the bottom line was that article or the little, opportunity for financial gain was the main focus. If that can be used as an example whenever cross collaborating with any brother in whatever station that they come from, whether it's conservative, liberal, or whatever you want to subscribe to, have an opportunity, have a business venture, have something specific where the immediate need is a collective benefit. Let that be the focus and let that be the mission. And then you disperse from there. We don't have to, come together in kumbaya, because clearly we've all said that doesn't work. Then cool. Let's pick the ladder. All right. I know you need some bread. I need some bread. Our sons are going to be messed up in the game. So let's just, I got this, you got that. Let's pair this together, get this done, and then go on about our business. And then, break off into your own little tribal, communities. And then from there, that addresses, hold on, let me watch the ledge, because may have to slide back to the seventh, to the seventh coast with this. But
I like to say by collaboration says fuck you niggas. And that is all.
All right. Go ahead. Continue, Wesco.
Right. So basically, for your SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats, that addresses the external and internal threats that you face from underlings or people within your camps, and having their own personal opinions about whether or not you should do quote unquote business with this particular person, because it'll be the responsibility of whatever camp that they belong to handle that internal strife in the management form. And then from there, it pretty much it addresses the issue of having your independence and being self-accountable, because everybody that's within their own collective group is accountable to their group. And it addresses the collective issue of us coming strategically together as a collective to collaborate on a particular issue without being dismantled from external or internal forces.
Yeah, see what we're running into. We're running into the age-old argument, self-accountability and the collective argument. Whether you lean towards the collective or the individual, what is actually something that needs to be put to the forefront is that it's both. It is something that needs to be a balance when you look at this thing. There is individual accountability when it comes down to somebody doing what they need to do to make their life better. That is paramount. And then there's also a need to collaborate. Economics, especially when you talk about economics, which I hear these brothers talk about a lot, is a group sport. It is like football. It is something that is team sport. You have to have people with you. This is not something that you're going to be able to do on your own. And then most people that talk about businesses anyway, they're just talking about a job that they work within themselves. They found a job that they're working for themselves with. If they do hire people, it's basically people that they're very, very close to, family members or very, very close friends. We're not talking about big businesses when people talk like this. And I don't care if you're making 6 figures or even low 7 figures. I'm just keeping it real. I'm from the land of that. I know a lot of people that got their own businesses, man. A lot of Black people, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes down to people getting together and trying to do things, that's where it falls apart. Because I don't like what you say. I don't like what you're talking about. I don't think what you're saying is correct. So bump you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't care what you got going on over there. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna do what I do over here. So that kind of hate that is self-imposed on us, which is basically something that's been built into us, has been played against us to kind of like keep this divide to where we can't coalesce and be able to build together. Because that collective part, if you're talking about Black people, if that's what you're on, if you're talking about building something or saying that you want to kind of build some kind of economic power base, and then you're going to have to be able to get with some people that may not share everything or every ideal that you have in tow. That's how this works. I mean, if you want to kind of use white people, whatever, Jewish people, Asian people, all these people don't get along or share the same ideology. Facts. But they share an ideal and a goal, and then they push towards that. It's called problem solving. It's basically just eliminating the small stuff and then pushing forward. That's what I'm saying. This kumbaya. I mean, it's almost like you had a job. If you work in a group or you work in any kind of power group, there are a lot of people that don't get along, don't even like each other. We go to lunch together, we sit there, we eat. Man, I've sat across some white people that I know. Look at me, be like, why is this Negro here? And who let him in? Who let this spook sat by the door? He ain't supposed to be here. How do you get in here? That kind of deal. But you know what? They'll sit there, they'll talk, we'll go over some things, we'll work some things out, and that's it. That's how this works, man. And that's all I'm saying. It's just the utility of trying to get things done. But when you use it as a talking point, and you can even see it in the chat, you use it as a talking point, you get into these ideals, and then people that say that they're not married to an actual ideal, you are married to it because that's where you live most of the time. So you just attack people that has a different ideology than you do.
Facts. You know what? And I think that this is the last point that I'll say, at least on this particular issue, is understanding that internal hatred that's been fed to you is important in understanding your history. So then you don't have this assumption of this emotional coming together, because that's really what it boils down to. And this is where we end up having this break, is on emotion. Is, you know, I feel like we should come together emotionally and we should all have this big kumbaya in order to get the financial or the utility completed. And the bottom line is that's not how groups work at the end of the day. And so if we understand and accept that, then we can move forward with what we need to do and remove all emotional coalescing and coming together aside. Because, you know, we're not going to come together because obviously culture is sticky and we got years upon years of inherited BS that we all got to deal with in one shape, form, or fashion. But what we can all see as a particular need, we can, you know, get, you know, just baby steps, literally moving the chains. Just this is why with ADOS, we were almost to the finish line. But what happened? Move to the emotional of, well, I don't believe that, you know, ADOS should be going in this direction because somebody's LGBT or somebody's doing this. And it's like, my dude, FBA. The main thing was getting the damn reparations and cutting the check. And it was all lost off of emotional coalescence about, well, how do I feel about collaborating with such and such? And that's where, you know, that residual effect kicks in. And if we all are aware of that residual effect and are able to tamp and check that, then we gonna be all right. But outside of that, it's collaborate or crumble.
Keep your eyes on the prize, man.
With that, I'm staying the 7th coast.
Did he just use that 70s? Did he just use that 70s flashback? See, I told you people from DC are like backwards as shit. Keep your eyes on the prize. Keep your eyes on the prize. What you gonna say? Keep hope alive.
See, when DC gets that too called. I get that too called. So we stay away from the fence.
I gotta speak in certain types of platitudes for you. For you dudes from 45 minutes up north, man.
The suburb of DC, huh?
Oh no, actually they're the septic tank of Baltimore, but you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people. How did that happen?
Nah, DC, they just park outside your house, and they just beat.
They're just hoping that PG will take them back again. You know,
haters, man. Just haters, man.
Hey, you know what they say about Baltimore? What DC do say about Baltimore and Baltimore County? Oh, I can't afford to live in DC. Oh, let's go to live in Baltimore. It's only a 1 hour drive.
Yeah, that's right. You killed with the traffic. That's fact.
That's true.
Yeah, that's the reason why they call it DC, Death City.
Oh, come
on. No, you didn't say they're coming from Baltimore, from the Wire, man. No.
Yeah, those
Murderland.
Yeah, they call it Death. They call that shit Death City for a minute.
Hey, I got one thing to say, Charles, though. Not the vacants. The vacants.
Shit. You go driving down DC and the front end of your car disappear. Don't say I told you so.
Get out there and get out on the stump for Kimberly Classic, man. You out there for Kimberly Classic out there.
I was fine. She is easy on the eye. I can't.
I mean, she's a hell of a lot looking better than Marion Barry.
She is easy on the eye. I can't lie about that.
I mean, a former stripper turned politician.
You gotta love it. Hey, you gotta love it.
Boy, I tell you, man. For the brothers that be talking about one blowjob away, boy, you got one glance.
I can look now. You know what I'm saying? So if people are so in the class, she can't do any worse.
DC's not used to them of actually not having extra parts down there in the lap area. That's why he's complaining. He likes his women a little bit more than meets the eye.
What is she gonna say in November? What is she gonna say in November? Get your booty to the pole. Get your booty to the pole.
Absolutely. You see her walking through. What was that? Was that Fayette she was walking through?
She was walking through Biddle. That was Biddle. That was Biddle Street, Greenmount Secret. She was walking past Greenmount and Biddle.
Yeah, so I'm like, come on now.
And the craziest part about it is, the craziest part about that commercial is they want to show the vacants there, but they don't want to show the fact that they're about to take the vacants down and they're building the houses on the other side of the street.
Right.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Y'all tricky like that, man. That's what y'all do. Tricky out there. Y'all tricky always out there. Make sure you get your test, man. Any brothers out there going out to Baltimore, man, get your test, man, before you get out.
Oh yeah, you better. Guess what? When you go to DC, they say, "Welcome to the nation's capital. Leave your dick in the car." Anything else you gotta keep.
Get your test, bro. Get your test, man. Be careful,
man. Y'all fail an STD test, a blood test. Y'all fail all kinds of shit, don't you?
Anytime you got a casino called the Horseshoe, you can't trust that, man. You already know that, man.
Shit,
no game like the Horseshoe, man. Get out.
What's y'all casino called?
Unless it's horse fly, then it's even worse.
That's what they got down in DC now. Don't be surprised that fly be on the ticket.
Oh, by the way, while you're here, DC, how is old 45 doing, man?
Oh, you talking about the guy that still got COVID is still passing it around like like you got a car, you got COVID, you got COVID, you got COVID, you got COVID. Man, this man he wiped out the whole White House, man. Ain't nobody even there. He wiped the whole house out.
Oh, they all sheltering in place.
Yeah, they out, man. Yeah, that thing is empty.
I heard they got a new song playing now. You can feel it. It's COVID. I know, I'm ignorant.
Watch out for the big girls. Oh, watch out for the big girls.
We're gonna play some sardines and pork and beans and make you feel at home, you know.
So when they sang about the butt, they were talking about Baltimore.
That's DC. Well, you gotta realize something. DC has like imported women, so yeah.
They like that techno music out there, man. You know.
No, that's club music. See, y'all like pots and pans and shit.
You know what I'm saying?
Y'all like that pots and pans. How do you have the same beat for every goddamn song? Please answer that.
We like African music.
That ain't African music. That's banging on your pots and pans with your kids.
You like High Life?
Man, that's some bullshit. If you ever said that bullshit in your life, you listen to Go-Go, you heard one Go-Go song, you literally heard them all. Beat never changes.
You know what Go-Go reminds me of? It reminds me of
scenario. Don't let me hit you with the scenario, man.
Every time you go down to DC, it's a scenario.
Absolutely.
Anytime you get it's only in DC where it's only in DC where you can get a police report for having an STD. That's how bad.
I'm gonna let you have that one. You got it. You got that one. Now, what was you saying, BGS?
No, I said the go-go music kind of reminds me of Leimert Park in the 70s and 80s with the African drumming.
Yeah. We hit the Congos, man, and stuff like that, man. We kept it to the motherland. You know how it go. Yeah. Get the bass line beat, man. We ain't get all that white techno music, man.
No. It's actually club. It's actually Baltimore club. That shit's about as African as that made it. That shit is about as African as the made in Taiwan dashikis you wear.
Yeah,
they ain't playing go-go music in Asia. I know that.
Shit.
They might be in K-pop. They might.
Nah, they ain't playing no go-go music.
So you didn't know he had a K-pop a K-pop CD in his truck?
They can't understand that.
Oh man, these sardines and pork and beans, right?
And pork and beans, man.
Yeah, that tells you the poverty. That tells you the poverty line, man. God damn, what kind of jail hookups are y'all?
Well, to be presidential, man. Got to be presidential.
Yeah, shit, y'all haven't been presidential since Taft, man.
Gotta be presidential. That's what it's about.
Oh man,
you gotta keep it. You gotta keep it classy, man. Not
I never seen a president wear slouch socks though.
Yeah. That's not what I mean by presidential. You know what I'm talking about. and then
do you
talking about no president?
Like why the hell do y'all tie your pants into your damn shoes and shit? Why do y'all do that?
Brothers ain't did that since the 90s, Charles. Now get out of here.
Bullshit.
That's the same reason why you guys wear them extra triple X.
Nobody. Shit. I wish they wore it. These motherfuckers like DC, they wear that shit extra speedy.
A triple X white tee all the way down to your knee. Get out of here, bro. Look at this brown right here.
That's not my fault that you and your girl both shop at 521. Like, why do you and your girl both shop at 521, man?
Oh Lord, here we go. All right. Anything else going on? Because
are you serious? I know you didn't try to clown on wearing white tees. You don't wear white tees like that, bro. Not like that.
Y'all wear halter tops
anymore. Come on now. Absolutely not, bro. Absolutely not.
Armani exchange.
Hold on.
You know what y'all exchanged it? Y'all exchanged that.
We got a couple of your folk down here that be acting like that, but hey, man, sometimes they not part of the city. They implants, man. They basically visit for a little while.
Y'all be wearing that Imani exchange. Y'all be trying to exchange for some air.
See, Charles, I will say something, but this is BGS channel. I'm not gonna go there. I
might have to open up mine because I know y'all be wearing that Imani exchange.
You talk
which
Imani? Hold on. When you bring that up, what are you suggesting, sir? Are you suggesting high value clothing? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's the fact that you have to spray paint it on.
Oh, so what are you talking about? What does that look like? Huh?
Like, goddamn, y'all look like like you can see like they wear so tight you can see their heartbeats up in there.
Hold on, what are you talking about, sir? When you talk about those tight Armani suits, those European cut suits, I think you're talking about a particular sect. Right?
When y'all be having them Armani shirts, that's why y'all be wearing that shit for the.
No, sir.
Be wearing those Armani shirts.
Nope.
All right.
Let's about your homie. Your homie.
Y'all be wearing them. Y'all be wearing them shit till like
talking about your people.
Nah, the Armani cut suits.
About
them shirts. Y'all be having that shit.
Then it came to my city, having little seminars and grouping together, and dapping it up and showing love. Hey, that's what that is. We don't get down like that, though. You know that. It is what it is, bro. It is what it is.
You know you lie. You know you lying now. You
Absolutely
know you
not.
lying now.
Absolutely not.
I mean, I was seeing some guys wear that shit. Like, how do you wear a muscle shirt without the muscles?
I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000% with what you said.
That shit had me kerfuffled. I had to ask BGS this real quick.
Yeah.
What was your take on Lonnie Love?
On Lonnie Love, as far as what?
Well, she was talking about the submission thing. I bust out laughing.
She Lonnie Love ain't ever heard of submission in a day in her life. She a big girl. Big girls don't submit.
Yeah,
what
big
happened?
girls, man. Everybody fell off, man. Did everybody? Hello?
Yeah, I think everybody fell off.
Man.
Yeah, but so what's going on, man, with 45?
Well, I think that I think that everybody's going to be very, very shocked during the whole election thing. I think that it's a wrap. I think it's bigger than, when they say it's bigger than Nino Brown. It's bigger than us. This thing that went to a whole nother level. It didn't got way blown out proportion. There's people in higher statuses of life that want him up out of there. So it's
really,
okay. Yeah, it's not.
He's falling out of favor.
Yeah, he DOA now. Yeah, he like Sean Penn, dead man walking for real.
I mean,
people in jeopardy, man.
I mean, how could you really? How can you fuck up a cakewalk, man? That's what I
told you, man.
You did.
He don't listen to counsel. That's it. Like, temper it down just a little bit. Don't go out there. Don't tweet. But he don't believe in that. He do what he wants to do, man. Bottom line, he does what he wants to do, and this is how you pay for it.
Yeah.
He's running the election like he did in 2016, and what worked in 2016 was a different environment, different time frame. The Republicans were all in. He don't have that now. He don't have the full support from the Republicans. So he has basically split the empire, so to speak.
Man, okay.
The empire basically
comfortable with him, but the thing is, that's the only horse.
Yeah. They if you notice, some of them is completely jump ship. Like, they're even coming out, saying it now. So if you're really paying attention, you're seeing the tea leaves of them trying to move forward, trying to coalesce, because they're trying to save, like I said, they're trying to save the seat of the Ingram guy down in South Carolina. He's in a dogfight now because of some of the stuff that he was talking about, and the black voting block down there. And this is John Clyburn. I give it to him. He got stronger. The Jedi down there got stronger while they was relaxing in their laps of luxury out in South Carolina. And I'm telling you, man, they're in a dogfight, bro. I just drove down there recently. It's a dogfight. It is a dogfight, BGS.
I mean, does COVID affected his brain, man? Like he says he's not going to sign the stimulus bill until after he gets elected, and then he turns around and says, "I'm going to sign it." I said, "What?"
Pride and arrogance has defeated him, man. Pride and arrogance has defeated him. That's all.
Yeah,
you're right. He had a cakewalk. If he did a couple of things, that's all he had to do. And he would have been able to get this election. I think it would have still been close, but I think he would have still been able to split. But he's just been so belligerent, so disrespectful. He has basically created a split within his own party now. So
I said my thing was, if he can actually manage the COVID thing,
right,
he should walk through. But
if
up to maybe right before the debate, I thought he was, had a good shot of actually being elected, man.
Man, if he did back-to-back stimulus checks,
bang,
oof, that would have been it. That would have been it, man.
That definitely would have worked for me. Back-to-back checks.
Keep the economy going.
Yeah.
You keep everybody all in. People are not desperate at the seams. You don't have these stories of people being evicted. You don't have people basically in so-called rural America, white America, that are on the fringes. You see what I'm saying? You're exploiting your base.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you catch COVID and show weakness.
Yeah, because all the rich people stay in the liberal states.
Yeah,
the poor folks stay in the red.
Yeah,
those are the people that are the most vulnerable. That's why it doesn't make sense, because you're voting against your own interest. And what ends up happening is when these people need some kind of relief, that's where you get these trouble spots, you know. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. And you know, I don't like to say I told you so, but you know, I told you so.
Just screw this up.
Yeah, that's
I know how bad it is. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, he has fucked up, but I still think the Democrats will find a way to screw this up.
Man.
I don't think they
you know they're gonna find a way to mess it up, man.
It's bigger than Democrats, AB. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's bigger than the Democrats now. This is a management issue.
Yeah,
this is management now. And the reason why you saw Pence kind of, you know, color the margins the way he did in that debate, you know, like kind of like, you know, didn't speak to Trump's record that much, is that he may be looking at it from a viewpoint of, hey, look, you know, 4 more years, I can basically reform the party and be the candidate to kind of run against whatever the Democrats are going to basically offer. Yeah. And he would have a legitimate shot at it. I mean, I think if they reform and kind of regroup, hey man,
yeah, I'm gonna tell you, Pence is a very experienced politician. He ain't no fool.
He is. I can't stand him.
I mean, I like Reese Banner.
But now the Lord of the Fly.
Lord of the Fly. I call him. He will forever be called. He will forever be Reese Banner to me.
How did the one fly in the whole building land on his head, man? I don't know how that happened.
I bet you it was
on his forehead.
Nobody thought a nigga shit was on his head.
That's bad
luck. That is a bad sign.
And then on top of that, you knew Kamala you saw that shit. Didn't say a goddamn word. Ignorant motherfucker. Ignorant motherfucker. She saw that shit. See, she like, and then she had the Starkey black girl thing going.
She did, she had it. She popping
she looked like one of my PG County, one of my
PG County. Oh boy, I'm not looking forward to whatever Kamala or
I remember all the shit she was talking about Biden when they were competing for the seat. She called the man a racist to his face, and now she's his number 2.
Hey, that's politics, bro.
That was my mind, man.
It's politics, bro. It's the Sith, man. It's the rule of 2, man.
How many black chicks date white guys to be in Black Lives Matter?
Absolutely.
I know 2.
All of them.
One of them's an ex-girlfriend, so
all of them. You saw the sister supporting the Proud Boys. You saw that.
Yeah, well, but the thing is it was Trump. It was actually Trump's election to lose, and basically he did a real good job of losing it.
He did a good job of doing it.
Guys,
he has himself to blame.
Good Lord, it was good. I mean, how many? And it's still October. So how many 4 times did he have to screw up, man?
Yeah, because they're not going to even do the. See, now he's going to look fearful because now he talked all that tough talk. Now he don't even want to get in front of nobody because he knows that basically Biden's going to come in there with the hands off as much faculty as he can stand and kind of go for the jugular. He's going to try to cut the head off. So he's like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do that.
Y'all think if any people are left on the fence, I'm thinking regardless if they have any more debates, people already made their mind who the fuck they gonna vote for.
No, they haven't.
No, it's undecided. Oh yeah, no. It's plenty of undecided people.
Because I'm an independent voter. You think it's more independent voters out there, or people from both?
The thing is that they'll be rats get off the sinking ship first, man. People at the bottom are the first people that know when the water line is. And basically, if it was a normal election year, I would say they probably already have their minds made up. But this is not normal. You got COVID, you got people out of work, you have unemployment, you got people getting ready to get evicted, and Trump was supposed to pass.
Yeah, that's true.
All that kind of stuff, and that didn't happen. So basically, So, and one thing he actually dangled, I'm not going to pass unless you vote for me and elect me, I'm not going to pass a stimulus bill. What?
He's kind of holding that shit over our head, man. Waiting till the last second to drop it off for $1,200.
That's not a man that's trying to get elected.
That's a man that don't like to be told what to do.
Yeah.
So when you have a situation like that, it's hard to govern. because I think he thought that the presidency was like more like a dictatorship, and it doesn't work that way. You got 12 people in your office. They're there having a meeting before he even gets up. It's 12 people already talking about what the agenda is for the day, literally. And when he walks in there into the actual Oval Office, they're basically telling him what they should talk about. And you know how those meetings go. First of all, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying this. And then that's how you get all these people getting fired. I mean, nobody has fired more press secretaries than this man in a 4-year period. It's ridiculous.
I lost count, man.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that means what they're talking about is not aligning up. And you know how people walked out there and try to toe the line about what he's talking about, but they get in trouble. And if they answer a question that is basically making him look bad, he's going to fire you. Even if it was nothing that you could do about it. He thinks that you should have been able to handle it the way he would have. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why it's very, very basically dangerous now for him, because he has people that has worked with him that has come out now. They have actually interviewed numerous people that's been in his administration talking down on him, on how he leads, what he does, reason why he's basically not getting a coalition of people that's supporting him.
And basically, he pissed on war veterans too, but like a month before. Come on, man.
You cannot do that. You cannot.
He was throwing those losers,
bro.
I still ain't took that back. That's like 10% of the population. Veterans vote.
No, dude, 10%. How about people that are associated with them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like their families. Yeah.
You're talking about 40% of the population, man.
I'm a war veteran. I feel bad.
I don't like neither one of them, man. People act like two parties out there.
I'm just like, good God.
Me out.
I'm like, good God. Like,
I mean, we only got two parties to vote for. You got the libertarian.
It is what it is. I still ain't voting for Biden though.
Every time I bring that up,
vote for whoever.
Say, you're just throwing your vote away if you vote third party.
Whoever basically, I think everybody should vote, whether it's for Trump, whether it's for Biden, whatever the case. I think you should.
I'm going to vote. I'm just saying.
You know
people
what I mean?
say you vote third party or anything with the Democrat or Republican. They say you're throwing your vote away.
I'll tell you this one. Vote for Faulkner.
Are you be what's your name? Classic's assistant or something like that?
I'm just gonna be like this. Look, my campaign slogan is, "I'm not as bad as the last guy."
Man, isn't it time for you to get a chicken box somewhere, man? Go get you a chicken box.
Look. Did I come over there to ABC Street and knock the mambo sauce out of your heads? Did I knock the mambo sauce out of your heads?
Get out of here.
Like, you know, they eat so much mambo sauce, they put it on everything. Ice cream, chicken, goddamn.
Fusion.
Goddamn, okay.
Get out of here.
Goddamn. Oh my God! Yeah.
All right. Who has? Okay, we're getting ready to bounce in a few. So if you got something to say, speak now. Forever hold your peace. Come on.
I had a question about women and the inner light. I was wondering if how do I explain it? I haven't really completely thought it out. Women take in what's in their environment. So as per tending to social media, I know social media is like, it's pretty much their subconscious, it's their true thoughts. But I was wondering if, like, at this point now, with how social media is, has it actually instead hijacked their perceived environment, and now social media dictates the female's environment more than the female dictating how social media is? So, like,
it's a two-way street. So yeah,
it works both ways.
It works both ways, and will social media trump the actual physical world? No. Will it influence? Yes,
absolutely.
Okay, it
will. Absolutely.
It will change the way people communicate and how people are influenced, especially the way you say, like the millennials and especially the Z's were raised. Okay, they were raised with a controller in their hand. Okay, so basically they interface with, you know, with electronic devices. And then when they came of age, they had smartphones and stuff like that. You know, and the disease are even worse because you see mothers handing their smartphones to their babies. to entertain them. So we left the entertainment for and social interaction for the millennials and the Z's to electronic media. So basically, they've been brought up on that. So it does influence them a lot.
They can't even talk. They can't even carry a conversation in person. They got to text.
I mean, when I asked brothers to approve the 80-20 rule, as far as 80% of the women are actually after 20% of the guys, and I said to prove it, they always go to a dating app or what Tinder says or OK Cupid says, or say, dude, have you ever tried to walk outside and see if it's true? Well, no, man. Well, what's outside reflects what's on my screen. I said, okay.
You know why? Because one, it develops. Social media made you less social. You got a bunch of people scared to talk to goddamn girls, which is part of my rites of passage. And thank you for sharing the live stream yesterday, BGS. I think I might do another one tonight.
So then my next question would be as far as the Anima and Animus, and I can't wait for you to do more videos on that because I'm still trying to understand it, but I can't completely. But is that now going to be what develops the Anima, the social media, or just the media in general? Will it develop
it's part of it, okay? Basically, all social media is taking the place of human interaction. Okay, that's the only difference. You're still going to be masculine on social media or feminine on social media. Okay, what's really pushing most of the populace toward closest to the feminine side is not social media, but the school system is feminized, and they emphasize feelings and emotional intelligence and all that kind of stuff. That's all feminine. Okay, so they're developing feminine thought processes in your brain. So even though most men's brains are not wired for feminine thought process, right? So that's like when you get to be an adult, you rebel because those two things don't match. So you get angry and you do all kind of dumb shit. But the thing is, you still have the way you actually relate to the world is what you've been taught. Okay, so a lot of guys actually try to access their feelings the way women do, but they can't. But the thing is that's what it is. The thing is, what should have been done is, say, if you have a male, you raise him as a male, and it raises animus as a male. As his animus matures, then you start bringing in his feelings and feminine side and that kind of stuff. So basically, it becomes a useful tool as an addition, not a supreme. What happens is
mature enough to handle it at that point.
Maturing happens. So now what you're having especially with millennials and millennial guys, I'm gonna say millennial guys and even Z guys that are Z, right? Is you have an out of control anima that they're pushing, right? That's immature and basically is actually what, in my opinion, is actually retarding the growth of their animus, which is their male side. Okay, so now you have two sides that you have delayed maturity. So now you got 35, 40-year-old guys sounding like they're teenagers because they never mature. Okay, the animus never matures because your animus is supposed to be still reckless, doing all kind of bullshit, still trying to, you got 45-year-old guys trying to threatening to fight over the internet, that kind of stuff. It's like
benefit BGS. You won't, motherfucker. I'm a fight
you. I mean, you ain't gonna come to my town over a disagreement on the internet, man. Okay, which is these guys are damn near 50 years old because your animus hasn't matured to where it can actually control.
Have a whole heart attack, man.
And basically, what the thing is about the anima, which is feelings, right? 93% of what goes on inside your head is feelings, right? And it needs a control center. The anima is like the dark side of the force. Okay, it's very powerful, but it's out of control, right? So you need what the light side or the animus, which is actually your logical center, is actually smaller. But the thing is, that's your control center. So you need a very mature animus to control those feelings. Even women, as they age, the reason that they get more controlled and more refined is because your animus actually grows and will be able to control and actually use those feelings for good. Okay, when young women are wild, man. Young women have to follow. They have to follow a pattern because that's what keeps their their feelings, their wild especially in order.
Especially in West Baltimore,
especially the DC girls, man. How you gonna go to the club with a mini skirt and a tampon? Everybody strangling like a bungee cord.
Well, you know, DC's ride parked outside them projects. Well, it used to be parked outside them projects. You know, hung them up right, DC.
God, boy.
You know, he loved the project girls.
I did, man. I can't lie, man. I had to find this joint too, boy.
He liked them chicken heads.
Talking in my life.
Like them chicken heads
in my life, man. Because of you haters. Because of you haters. We need to be here talking to you guys, man, right now, man.
So did you get out the truck?
One for the grace. Absolutely not. I told you her brother had to wheel. His brother was like, man, he all right, man. He all right. This old DC Bama, you know, doing all that hate, you know, the little necessary hate, you know, man.
Yeah, the dance between animals.
I enjoyed myself, man. I had my day. I had my day.
In fact, I was supposed to do a story because somebody sent me one about how
I got plenty of stories to tell, BJS. Got a story to tell, like Biggie.
I know you do. I know you DC niggas off the chain. I heard about DC, man, especially in the 80s and 90s, man. Y'all was off the chain. You guys only second in Atlanta.
Yeah, man. Look who was our mentor, man. I mean, you know, Chuck Brown and you know, Marion downtown Barry.
Yeah, but anyway,
somebody
sent me a story about how soldiers develop your anima, right? Because your anima is your instinct or your second sense, or that your gut feel. Okay, and the soldier was telling about how he actually used his anima to actually he had a feeling that where he was at was bad, so he didn't. So he said, "Let's go someplace else," right? And then a couple of guys that were actually with him said they were in a position. He said, "Man, that position's no good." So they went into another house that was made out of brick and hid out because they knew there was tanks getting ready to roll through. Mm-hmm. And he said, all of a sudden, he said he got that gut feel that we got to get out of here because it's not good. So and he said, after they went out the basement window, man, and escaped, right? A round came into the room where they were, right? And what they found out later is that those two positions where he had moved were actually blown up or hit by mortars. So, so that's your anima. It's your anima in action if you develop it.
You know,
okay.
The unseen.
Unseen, yeah.
Did you get the email I sent you, BGS?
I got it.
Because I thought you might be like me, who don't regularly check his emails.
Yeah, I got it. I listened to it. In fact, it got me to thinking about Kalel's name, right? L, which is
it means of God.
Well, Ka means Ka is actually the duplicate. In other words, the image. So in other words, basically, Kael is the image of God.
Yep, like God is with us. It's funny because when I was listening to that, I was like, you know what? Damn you, BGS! He brought up Yoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he brought up Yoon, and it is funny because it's kind of going into what you talk about the anima and animus of how chaotic women's thinking really is. Because when he talked about the women of Marvel, well, the villains are the ones who go through the struggle. How, Sway? I said the villains don't go through a struggle because they actually go through their impulses. Mm-hmm. So if that's, oh my God, women are killing comic books too, by the way. And I'm listening to it. They're like, well, being a hero like Superman is outdated. No, that's because y'all trying to outdate a father figure in the world. And it's not about, okay, if he can battle.
Miserably.
Huh?
And they're failing miserably.
Yeah, and it's like when you read a Superman comic or a novel, it's not about how many powers he can get or how powerful he gets. It's that does he do the right thing? Mm-hmm. And that's the main premises of it. It's not that, oh, did he earn his powers? At some point he had to. He had to earn his place. Because the hardest thing you ever have to do is not earn your strength, is to literally earn your trust, earn respect.
But that's because archetypes aren't where the money is.
Mm-hmm. Because they love some Harley Quinn. You know why? Because that's what they really want to be.
Impulse, yeah, all impulse.
In fact, if you look at most feminine heroes in any comic book, they're mostly impulse.
Yeah, Joker.
Well,
even
Joker.
though he was still he was both. So I can't say he was all.
Well, Joker wasn't. Joker. Here's the thing about the Joker. At times he played crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It takes. Remember the old saying? It takes a smart man to play stupid. That's kind of like the Joker in some iterations.
Yeah, he was a maniacal genius. Yeah.
When you look at Wonder Woman, it's funny. I had this one book come in the mail. Like, yeah, no, like everybody likes her. They think she's pretty, but nobody would ask her on a date because of that warrior spirit. Like, calm that shit down. But when he was talking about that, I listened to it for the whole hour. And I could tell a lot of people weren't going to listen to it, who I sent it to, because, well, one of my exes, she was like, well, as soon as I heard Superman, I clicked off. I said, I figured because I figured because a lot of shit's going to flow over your head anyway. What is that supposed to mean? You're barely scratching the second dimension. Okay, what does that mean? Never mind.
That's right.
That's right. Why would you send it to her? Oh, and she's not gonna even look at it.
The fuck with her.
See what you would do.
Let's see what you would do and fuck with you. You got to test out the hypothesis. I was like, it's like I told you the other day. She's they're trying to get rid of Roe v. Wade. Didn't I tell you that like 2 years ago?
Yeah, nobody believes it.
And she was like. It's like every time I'm on the phone with her. Remember when you told me this? Yeah. It's happening now.
Yeah.
Duh.
It makes the thing is sometimes if you actually know what the intent is, so if you know what the why is, the what's will follow.
Mm-hmm.
What's and hows will normally follow. If that's what the code breakers do, actually try to find the why in the literature. Find out the why, then the what's will show up, and what's in and how will show up.
Okay, why should I vote for Joe Biden?
Say what?
Why should I vote for Joe Biden? I'm asking DC.
Because your mama black.
I have never told anybody to vote for no Joe Biden.
Because your mama black.
Never. If you do not want to vote for him, you should not vote for him. Period.
DC is not a Biden fan.
No. I don't understand that. Just because I got smoke for Trump doesn't mean that I love Biden. I'm the one that basically played the whole broadcast when they basically introduced the bill. I was the first one in the space today. We went over that. You were there, Albert.
What would he say?
I did a whole program on that.
What did he say in 79? I don't want my kids going to a black school. It's going to be a racial jungle.
We did that whole deal. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I never told anybody to vote for Biden. Never, absolutely not.
I'm getting that so much, it's driving me. I'm like, get away from me.
Yeah, no, man. If you want to vote for Trump because he fits into your whole mentality and interest, you should do so.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to look at the Green Party, but I haven't seen much on them, or the Libertarian Party.
You vote who you want to vote for.
Yeah, that's all.
All DC is handicapped.
Exactly. It's informed, man. It's informing people. It's not. I'm not here to steer you either one way or the other. I am here to provide context, though. I am here to do that.
Yeah, my man said he doesn't want the jungle boogie.
Basically, he's an HQ, but everybody knows these people's personalities, and they're like pretty much agnostic.
Right. And when I'm telling you that there are people that are staunch conservative, blood red right, that do not want Trump in office for another 4 years, that they rather have Biden in there because they think they can work with Biden a lot better due to how he is more than they can Trump. That should tell you something, brother. That's a fact. I can tell you that, AB. That is an absolute fact that they would actually sacrifice having a black woman possibly basically rising up in office. They would deal with it when it comes across. They would enforce some kind of amendment. They would have some kind of constitutional setup to where they're going to basically not allow her to be sworn in. They'll deal with it when it comes across. If Biden basically takes bad health. But other than that, man, they rather roll with it because they think they can get more things done because Trump do not listen to people. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He doesn't listen.
He was that way.
Period.
Yeah, he was that way beforehand.
Say what?
Yeah.
I mean,
and think about how hard it is for Pence to actually defend him, because Pence was trying to find a way to defend him, but he don't even believe in it. So he just basically just rearranged it and said, well, you know, this is what we did, and this
The
is
American people, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, so that's how you do that, to try to cover your own bases, because if it was up to him, he would have governed, he would have governed the country a whole nother way. It would have been a lot more like George H.W. than it was Donald Trump. He would have been more in line with him. You know what I'm saying? That compassionate conservatism. That's what he's on, because he's not going to be rude. He's not going to be talking down on you. He's going to show some kind of compassion to the other side. That's how he governs. Trump is not like that. He's the total opposite. He is Sith Lord. He is Lord Tyrannus? He's Lord Tyrannus.
The bull in the china shop.
Any kind of betrayal, he had to have about 10 apprentices, not 1, 10. Because I'm killing you before you kill me. Before you even before I even reach your mind to even come up, you're fired. I know you got here last week. You're fired. You know we got to pay for the rest of your term, right? Oh, that's cool. Y'all got money. He don't care. That's what I'm saying. He's just reckless, man. That's all I'm saying. Like it's beyond. You got conservatives that's willing to work with you, but he's not a real conservative. So that's a whole nother deal. We can get into that.
That's a fact. So no one can dispute that. That's
why I don't understand why people that's conservative support him so much. But okay, the Pence is, but not Donald Trump. So
we'll see what happens, man. I mean, if he loses, he loses. It is what it is. If I'm wrong about the Democrats, okay.
Yeah, it's done. It's done.
You said Trump's done?
Yeah, it's done.
I
He's cooked.
I thought he was cooked too, because
he's cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's things that he didn't do, that he even up until last like 2 to 3 weeks where he had a window, and I gave him 30%. Now I'm down to like 20 to 15. It has to be a Hail Mary. It has to be something Hail Mary-ish. This is not something. I mean, I'm looking at the map, and there's just no. He lost Pennsylvania. He won Pennsylvania last time. That doesn't, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's not good. If he lost Pennsylvania, yeah, you're right. He might.
So it's over. Biden don't need Ohio, and Ohio is even up for grabs. Even Florida is in question. Florida.
Yeah, ironically, the only reason he's holding on to Florida is because of the Latinos.
Damn.
Yeah, so I mean,
I'm caution, but hey, it is what it is.
I'm just reading the chessboard, and hey, man, I know when a move is, man. I projected it early, but I was still a little bit iffy. But now, it is what it is now. I mean, you can call it game. It's all good. But you should still vote who you want to vote for, bro. I will always tell black men to do that.
Once again, vote for Faulkner. Give me a chance to steal somebody.
On that note, Chewy, cue up the engines. I'd have had enough of this B-more Bama.
I'm tired of these DC. I'm tired of these DC circus clowns, man.
Get your chicken and a biscuit.
Man, get your
soda.
Get your little grape soda. Fucking Mambo sauce, slouch sock wearing, look like a bunch of 80s aerobic studio motherfuckers.
Salute to the chat.
Don't make me start a paddle.
Salute to those that pronounce their Y's and their O's and their U's and their D's
and salute to those who have salute to those with fake Southern accents.
I am gone. Back to the outer realm I go.
All right.
Hey, you left these slouch socks with you.
My 45 northern brother. Yo, You ain't nothing, bro. You ain't shit. I'll holler at you guys, man. AB, man, I'll see you on the other side, man. Salute to you.
All right, have a good one, DC.
Stay up, bro. Gone.
Yeah, if Art's still up, I'm gonna drop Art's link into the chat if he's still going.
I think he's still going. I might. I don't know.
If you guys want to migrate over, I'll drop his link. And, I'm sure he'd be welcoming. And I'm getting ready to hit it because I'm like in 1 hour and 21 minutes overtime. So,
time to hit the hay, huh?
Well, yeah. Go ahead, and the Lakers couldn't wrap it up, so I didn't miss much. So that's good.
Oh shit! So one more game, huh?
Yeah.
VGS.
Thank you for the panel. All right, guys.
All right, Vernon.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right, y'all. Peace.